Chapter 35-20. A Saint Emperor level expert was indeed extremely terrifying. However, right now, everyone was deep within the cage that imprisoned their mana. Therefore, Lin Feng was not worried about his own safety at all. Lin Feng felt that with his ability, he should be able to kill this Saint Emperor level expert here. Brad, do you think that just because you let them out first, they can escape? Now that the Great Array outside has been activated, they won't be able to escape even if they have wings. After I deal with you, I will go and kill those guys. The Saint Emperor level expert sneered. He looked at Lin Feng as if he was looking at a dead man. This Saint Emperor level expert naturally did not put Lin Feng in his eyes. In his opinion, although Lin Feng's methods were a bit strange, he had even blocked his attack. However, he had only used a third of his strength just now. If he used his full strength, Lin Feng had no choice but to die. Lin Feng sneered and said, "What a conceited fellow. Since I stopped you, I have the strength to kill you." Brat, are you boasting shamelessly? You really overestimate yourself. The Saint Emperor level expert's expression was indifferent. A young cultivator like Lin Feng actually dared to say such words to him. Wasn't this looking down on him? Therefore, the Saint Emperor level cultivator was extremely angry. I'm just saying what I feel, and you will soon know that your little bit of strength is not worth mentioning in front of me. Lin Feng curled his lips and said. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the Saint Emperor level cultivator's eyes immediately revealed killing intent. His body emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. Then, the Saint Emperor level expert rushed towards Lin Feng. A palm struck towards Lin Feng. The power of this palm strike was much stronger than before. It could be said that it could destroy the heavens and the earth. It was truly shocking. The sound of a sonic boom could be heard in the air. As expected of a Saint Emperor level expert. An attack. It was really too terrifying. Facing the attack of a Saint Emperor, Yi Zichen was shocked. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He threw a punch at the Sage Emperor cultivator. Bang! Along with the sound of the violent collision, there was another sound. Lin Feng and the Saint Emperor clashed once again. This was a collision. Lin Feng was still safe and sound. The Saint Emperor had been forced back by Lin Feng's punch. No, that's impossible. The Saint Emperor immediately roared hysterically. He simply couldn't believe that he would be repelled by Lin Feng. That punch. This Sage Emperor had unleashed 70% of his battle prowess. Such powerful combat strength. In his opinion, wouldn't killing Lin Feng be a piece of cake? However, reality and ideal formed an extreme contrast and contrast. Lin Feng was completely fine. Instead, he was the one who was repelled. Lin Feng walked towards the Saint Emperor cultivator with an indifferent expression. He sneered and said, "Nothing is impossible. Even if your physical body is stronger than mine, your strength is far inferior to mine. You should have heard of the phrase, 1 man can defeat 10 men, right? With my strength, not to mention a mere Saint Emperor cultivator like you, even if an Emperor cultivator came, he wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from me." Lin Feng's words sounded extremely arrogant, but in reality, his words were not arrogant at all. The power of the draconic elephant arm would continuously increase as Lin Feng's battle prowess increased. During this period of time, Lin Feng's cultivation had greatly increased because he had refined too many of the 3,000 great das. Therefore, the power of his draconic elephant arm had also greatly increased. Moreover, Lin Feng's devouring martial spirit had transformed from 5 to 6. The draconic elephant arm was related to the devouring martial spirit. When Lin Feng's 6 devouring martial spirits were completely activated, Lin Feng could at most display 6 times the power of the draconic elephant arm. Lin Feng had never displayed 6 times the power of the draconic elephant arm. Therefore, even he didn't know how powerful 6 times the power of the draconic elephant arm was. Just now, Lin Feng had used 3 draconic elephant arms to repel the Saint Emperor cultivator. 3 times the draconic elephant arm was naturally far from being comparable to Lin Feng's 6 times the draconic elephant arm. Lin Feng knew that Supreme Emperor Myriad Star and the others outside might not be in a good situation. Therefore now, he had to end the battle quickly. Therefore, after Lin Feng forced that Saint Emperor to retreat, Lin Feng had to be careful. There was no stopping at all. He quickly rushed towards this Saint Emperor-level expert. Lin Feng wanted to kill this Saint Emperor-level cultivator as quickly as possible. 6 times the draconic elephant arm was activated. Lin Feng's strength instantly rose to the peak level. The power of 6 times the draconic elephant arm was completely unleashed. It was simply shocking. That terrifying power instantly erupted with a power that could destroy heaven and earth. Although it was only the power of the physical body, it gave people a feeling that it could shatter the void. This was the terrifying power of 6 times the draconic elephant arm. The perception ability of a Saint Emperor-level cultivator was extremely powerful. When Lin Feng's fist was about to reach him, this Saint Emperor-level cultivator immediately felt an unprecedented sense of danger sweep through his entire body. That feeling, it made this Saint Emperor-level expert's hands and feet instantly turn cold. This Saint Emperor-level expert's expression suddenly changed. He knew how terrifying Lin Feng's punch was. This Saint Emperor-level cultivator wanted to dodge Lin Feng's attack, but he was shocked to find out that he was actually unable to dodge Lin Feng's terrifying attack. Therefore, this Saint Emperor-level expert had no choice but to resist Lin Feng's attack. Bang! The two sides collided again. This time, the collision. It was even more violent. It was also even more violent. The power of Lin Feng's 6 times the draconic elephant arm was simply too powerful. Therefore, after this collision, this Saint Emperor-level cultivator directly suffered a calamity. Kacha. One after another, it spread out. This Saint Emperor-level cultivator's arm was actually directly broken by Lin Feng. This Saint Emperor-level cultivator couldn't help but scream. After injuring this Saint Emperor-level cultivator, Lin Feng's morale was greatly boosted. He sped up and rushed towards this Saint Emperor-level cultivator. He wanted to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Kill this Saint Emperor-level cultivator. At this moment, this Saint Emperor-level cultivator waved his hand. Swish! A cold light flashed. Instantly, densely packed silver needles flew out. The tip of each silver needle flickered with a green luster. It was obvious that it was highly toxic. This Sage Emperor-level cultivator was truly sinister to the extreme. He actually hid such a vicious method when the densely packed silver needles pierced towards him. Powerful aura energy surged out of Lin Feng's body. The aura energy formed a shield of aura energy. It blocked the densely packed silver needles, and Lin Feng rushed forward. A palm strike towards this Saint Emperor-level expert. This palm strike killed the Saint Emperor-level cultivator on the head. This Saint Emperor-level cultivator's head directly exploded. Chapter 35-21. In the outside world, the battle was fierce. Although they had the help of the undead army, the cultivators of the undead realm had already set up layers of ambushes. The undead army was blocked in the courtyard outside the heavenly prison. They could not enter. The courtyard where the heavenly prison was located was formed by various killing arrays. Under the urging of a large number of experts, waves of destructive power suddenly erupted. It was truly terrifying to the extreme. The 4 emperors had been injured by the Saint Emperor-level powerhouse. They were now escorting Supreme Myriad Star to break out of the encirclement. However, they were fiercely attacked by the cultivators of the undead realm, so their injuries were getting worse and worse. There were a total of 5 Emperor-level experts presiding over the array. These 5 Emperor-level experts stood in the core of the array in the position of the 5 elements. They cooperated with each other very well. In addition, the array, and the help of many experts, killing Supreme Myriad Star and the other 4. It seemed to be only a matter of time. Just as Supreme Lone Wolf, Supreme Myriad Star, and the other 4 were gradually unable to hold on. Suddenly, thud, 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 thud. This sudden sound that sounded like footsteps attracted everyone's attention. Everyone looked in the direction of the heavenly prison. They immediately saw a cultivator holding a human head in his hand stepped out of the heavenly prison. Oh my God! How is this possible? When they saw the cultivator who stepped out, everyone exclaimed. Their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. They could not believe their eyes. The cultivator who stepped out was Lin Feng. and in his hand was the head of the Holy Emperor. The Holy Emperor. What kind of terrifying existence was that? The endless sea of stars. Standing at the peak. A terrifying existence that could become the lord of the sea of stars. Such a powerful existence. His strength was naturally earth-shattering. However, such a powerful existence was killed by Lin Feng. Everyone thought that this was a dream. However, this was not a dream, but something that really happened. How did he do it? Supreme Myriad Star, Supreme Lone Wolf, Supreme Thousand Circles, the Holy Ground Old Man, and Supreme Flame could not help but tremble slightly. Sir has fallen. Sir has actually fallen. How is this possible? How is that possible? Meanwhile, the experts of the Undying Realm were mumbling to themselves. Although they didn't want to believe what they were seeing, everyone knew that everything they saw was real. One of their Saint Emperors had fallen. If this matter were to spread back to the Undying Realm, it would cause quite a stir in the Undying Realm. A Saint Emperor level expert. Even in the Undying world where experts were as common as clouds, he was still a high and mighty figure. But now, he actually died in the lower realm. Who was that kid? How did he do it? The cultivators from the Undying Realm couldn't help but feel puzzled. They thought of a possibility. The heavenly prison was a restricted space, unable to circulate his magic power. Could it be that the Saint Emperor had lost in a contest of physical strength? Was he killed in the end? However, that human cultivator seemed to only be a quasi-emperor. A quasi-emperor could kill a sage emperor with his physical body? Wasn't that just daydreaming? However, except for this explanation, the cultivators of the Undying Realm could not think of any other reason. Let's go. Lin Feng flew toward Supreme Venerable Myriad Star and the others. He waved his hand. An endless amount of magical power surged out. That powerful magic power engulfed Supreme Venerable Myriad Star and the others. Before the experts of the Undying Realm could react, Lin Feng directly used the formation splitting technique. The formation was instantly torn apart. Whoosh! Then, Lin Feng and the others rushed out of the Great Deployment spell. Now, the 5 Supreme Venerables were injured, and Lin Feng alone was unable to save the situation. The Undying Realm was full of experts. Naturally, it was best to leave. Anyway, he had already saved the people he wanted to save. There was no benefit in continuing to fight with these people. Lin Feng was a person who knew when to advance and when to retreat. People who didn't know when to advance and retreat often died miserably. Chase, don't let them escape. When Lin Feng tore apart the formation and left with the 5 Supreme Venerables, the experts of the Undying Realm finally reacted and roared one by one. They chased after Lin Feng and the others. However, Lin Feng's speed was too fast. He instantly disappeared without a trace with the 5 Supreme Venerables. This little brother is simply like an ancient Saint Emperor descending to the mortal world. I admire him. I haven't asked how I should address you, little brother. Supreme Venerable Myriad Star looked at Lin Feng and couldn't help but ask curiously. The 5 people who came to rescue him, Supreme Venerable Lone Wolf, Supreme Venerable Qianbao, Holy Ground Old Man, and Supreme Venerable Flame were all his old friends. In the past, they were life and death friends. They took the risk to rescue him. It was understandable. But what about Lin Feng? He was a stranger to Supreme Venerable Myriad Star. Therefore, Supreme Venerable Myriad Star didn't understand why a stranger like Lin Feng would risk offending the major forces of the Undying Realm to rescue him. At this moment, the 4 Supreme Venerables couldn't help but smile. Supreme Venerable Myriad Star looked at the 4 of them in confusion and then asked, "What are the 4 of you smiling about?" Supreme Venerable Lone Wolf said, "It seems that girl Seaman did a good job of keeping it a secret." "What do you mean?" Supreme Venerable Myriad Star was puzzled. Supreme Venerable Qianbao said, "This little friend is called Lin Feng. Brother, you must have heard of him, right?" Supreme Venerable Myriad Star was slightly stunned. Then, he said, "Lin Feng? Lin Feng, the rising star of the 9 states?" Lin Feng cupped his fists and said, "That's me." Supreme Venerable Myriad Star was extremely shocked. Lin Feng of the 9 states. He had naturally heard of him, but Supreme Venerable Myriad Star didn't take Lin Feng seriously. After all, Lin Feng was just a cultivator of the younger generation. No matter how powerful he was, how powerful could he be? Naturally, Supreme Venerable Myriad Star didn't take him seriously. But today, Supreme Venerable Myriad Star realized how wrong he was. Lin Feng was simply too heaven-defying. He had even killed a Supreme Venerable Divine Emperor. Supreme Venerable Qianbao smiled and said, "Little friend Lin and that girl Seaman have been running around, helping to contact experts to rescue Brother Yu. Everyone here was a scheming and astute person. Therefore, although the Supreme Venerable Qianbao didn't mention the whole story, everyone could understand the Supreme Venerable Qianbao's meaning." Supreme Venerable Myriad Star naturally understood what the Supreme Venerable Qianbao meant. He had never expected this. His daughter had actually found such an outstanding man without saying a word. Therefore, at this moment, Supreme Venerable Myriad Star looked at Lin Feng's gaze. He couldn't help but feel a little special. He seemed to be relieved. He seemed to be admiring him. He seemed to be relieved. His daughter had been able to find such an outstanding man like Lin Feng. As a father, he was naturally very satisfied. Everyone chatted as they flew toward the Lone Wolf Star Zone. 3 months later, they successfully returned to the Lone Wolf Star Zone. Chapter 35-22. Everyone arrived at the Lone Wolf Star Zone. The father and daughter met. They could not help but be filled with emotions. Especially at this moment. There were simply countless words in his heart that he wanted to say. The death of his family. The destruction of his family. All of this. It would never be forgotten. This was a blood feud. Even the water of the 5 lakes and 4 seas could not wash it clean. However, the father and daughter also knew how terrifying their enemy was. Therefore, at this stage, they could only swallow their anger for the time being. Then, they would look for an opportunity to take revenge, especially when Supreme Venerable Myriad Star had just escaped. He needed to recuperate, or else his body might suffer injuries that could never be healed. If such a situation happened, it would be a fatal blow to Supreme Venerable Myriad Star. Supreme Venerable Lone Wolf arranged a place for Supreme Venerable Myriad Star to enter seclusion. It could allow Supreme Venerable Myriad Star to recuperate. Before Supreme Venerable Myriad Star entered seclusion to recuperate, he spent a few hours alone with Yu Simon. Lin Feng guessed. This time, they were alone. Supreme Venerable Myriad Star would probably ask a lot about him. After all, Supreme Venerable Myriad Star only had one daughter. Naturally, he hoped that his daughter's man would love and protect her well, and not simply play with her feelings. After some time, he would abandon his daughter. Lin Feng naturally did not know the specific content of Supreme Venerable Myriad Star and Yu Simon's conversation. After Yu Simon came out, Lin Feng did not ask in detail. The cultivators of the Undying World seemed to have given up. They had lost a cultivator at the Holy Emperor level. The cultivators of the Undying World would not let this matter rest. As for when the cultivators of the Undying World would take revenge on everyone, how to take revenge on everyone, Lin Feng did not know. However, he would deal with whatever came his way. Lin Feng was fearless. As for Supreme Venerable Lone Wolf and the others, they had also expected that they might suffer the revenge of the Undying World. Therefore, Supreme Venerable Lone Wolf and the others joined forces. They formed an offensive and defensive alliance. As long as there was any sign of trouble, the major forces would then join forces to fight against the enemy. In addition, they also had the resources of several major forces. Even if the Holy Emperor came, he could also deal with it calmly. Therefore, there was no need to worry about the revenge of the Undying Realm. Lin Feng planned to seclude himself in the Lone Wolf Star for a period of time. At night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. In the room, behind the Cloud Rain Magus Mountain, Yu Simon snuggled into Lin Feng's embrace and said, "Father already knows that you took the ruler's armor." Lin Feng replied, "Your father has extraordinary means, so it's not strange for him to know about this," said Yu Simon. "Since the ruler's armor has accepted you, it's your destiny. However, the ruler's armor is a strange treasure, and it's even stranger than what you've seen. Therefore, you have to be careful when dealing with the ruler's armor. At the same time, you have to be on guard." Lin Feng frowned slightly. What did Supreme Venerable Myriad Star mean? Lin Feng felt that Supreme Venerable Myriad Star was implying something. However, some words. Supreme Venerable Myriad Star could not point it out. Lin Feng rubbed his chin. He knew that Supreme Venerable Myriad Star wanted to remind him to be wary of the ruler's armor through you, Simon. It seemed that this ruler's armor was indeed much more terrifying than he had imagined. However, his understanding of the ruler's armor was still too little. This treasure was filled with a mysterious aura. The next day, Lin Feng began his seclusion. During this seclusion, Lin Feng wanted to complete the creation of the time-space. The key to creating the time-space was naturally the Stone of Time. The Stone of Time. It could change the flow of time. Lin Feng had previously comprehended a trace of the mysteries of the Stone of Time. Therefore, he knew how to use the Stone of Time to create the time-space. Lin Feng first created an illusory space in his dantian. That illusory space emitted astonishing fluctuations. Then, Lin Feng used the power of the Emperor Law in his body. The Emperor Law in Lin Feng's body evolved into runes. Those runes emitted a powerful aura and fluctuations. The runes merged into the space condensed by Lin Feng. The space condensed by Lin Feng began to gradually stabilize. Swoosh! A light flashed. Lin Feng appeared in this space. Because the space had just been condensed, therefore, it was lifeless inside. Lin Feng planned to modify the space he had condensed. He wanted to make this space full of vitality. In the next few days, Lin Feng moved the mountains and forests outside, rivers and lakes, insects, fish, birds, beasts, and so on and so forth. They were all moved into this space. Suddenly, the originally lifeless space suddenly became full of vitality. Lin Feng also moved the 9 half-immortal stone veins in the mountain river ring into the space he created. After the 9 half-immortal stone veins were moved into the space created by Lin Feng, they were full of vitality. That kind of vitality was really shocking. 9 half-immortal stone veins. They began to subtly change the space created by Lin Feng. As time went by, Lin Feng believed the space he created would definitely become an extremely extraordinary small world. At that time, it could even give birth to new life. Of course, this would take some time. At the current stage, the time was not ripe yet. Lin Feng's magic power continuously poured into the Stone of Time. At the same time, the other part of his magic power poured into the space created by Lin Feng. These two parts of magic power were connected together. Kacha 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 sounds came from inside the Stone of Time. Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression, because the Stone of Time actually began to crack. A treasure like the Stone of Time, it shouldn't crack. Therefore, when he saw the Stone of Time crack, Lin Feng felt very strange. He felt that the cracks of the Stone of Time were very likely related to this space. Crack, crack. The Stone of Time cracked more and more. Lin Feng's expression couldn't help but become solemn. If his guess was wrong, doesn't that mean that the Stone of Time will be destroyed? Fortunately, Lin Feng's guess was correct. The Stone of Time cracked. It had a lot to do with the space he created. The Stone of Time cracked into pieces of gravel. Swish. Light flickered. Swish, swish, swish. Then, densely packed fragments of the Stone of Time. They shot out in all directions. Those broken stones of time. They were all embedded into the surrounding space wall. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal a smile. It seemed that the Stone of Time was going to completely merge with the space he created. Create time and space. Change the flow of time. The law of time is born from nothingness. Suddenly, Lin Feng's voice resonated in the space created by Lin Feng. When he heard that voice, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel excited. In the space created by Lin Feng, a law began to condense. That law, it contained a mysterious power. That power, it was the power of time. That law. Chapter 35:23. The law of time is the most mysterious and noble law. The law of time represents immortality, power, mystery, and greatness. Time is the existence that controls everything. Everything in this world, whether it has life or not, will gradually be destroyed under the erosion of time. The power of time is the most difficult power to control and also the most difficult power to comprehend. Rumor has it, only after breaking through the shackles of the Emperor realm and becoming a higher-level expert, will there be a certain chance to comprehend the power of the law of time. The chances mentioned here were not 100%, but an extremely small probability. Crossing the Emperor realm, how difficult is that? And among those great existences who cross the Emperor realm, only a very small number can control the power of the law of time. From this, it can be seen. Comprehending the law of time. How difficult is that? Just like breaking through the Emperor realm to master the power of the law of space. In fact, not everyone can do it. Among the cultivators who break through the Emperor realm, cultivators who can smoothly master the power of the law of space are also rare. It is really too rare. But whenever such an existence appears, they are all talented figures in the Emperor realm. Now, Lin Feng has begun to master the power of the law of time. Of course, the way Lin Feng masters the power of the law of time is different from the way those experts who cross the Emperor realm master the power of the law of time. Lin Feng masters the power of the law of time through the independent space he created and the stone of time as a medium. If he did not have this independent space and the stone of time as a medium, then Lin Feng wants to master the power of the law of time can be described as difficult as ascending to the heavens. In addition, there is one point that is not the same as the cultivators who cross the Emperor realm. The cultivators who cross the Emperor realm master the power of the law of time can launch attacks on others, even depriving the other party of life force. And Lin Feng masters the power of the law of time. At the current stage, it is to change the flow of time inside the space he created. For the time being, he can't attack others. As for whether he can attack others in the future, that is after all a matter of the future. It is still hard to say. When the first law of time was formed, endless information flooded Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng felt as if his head was about to explode. Fortunately, Lin Feng's soul was strong enough to successfully accept this information. He read the information carefully. This information was basically about the use of the law of time. Now that the first law of time had been successfully condensed, Lin Feng's time-space had formed a 5-to-1 time flow law with the outside world. In other words, a year passed in the outside world. In this time-space, 5 years had already passed. Lin Feng was shocked. After all, this time and space had just been built, and yet, it could make time flow 5 times faster than the outside world. It was truly inconceivable. Through the additional information in his mind, it could be seen that Lin Feng's comprehension of the Stone of Time and his control over time and space gradually deepened. As Lin Feng's cultivation continued to rise, more and more time laws would condense within the time-space. As for the laws of time, it could greatly increase the speed of time and space. Lin Feng planned to cultivate in the time-space for a period of time to adapt to the time-space. Lin Feng comprehended the Great Wish technique in the time-space. The Great Aspiration technique was an extremely difficult skill to learn. Lin Feng had tried time and time again to learn the Great Aspiration technique, but in the end, he had failed every time. This time, it was no exception. Lin Feng also failed. However, Lin Feng kept failing again and again, which made him gain even more experience. Lin Feng believed in one principle. No matter how difficult it was to cultivate the Great Tao, as long as he persevered, don't give up. Sooner or later, he could cultivate it successfully. The Great Wish technique. It was no exception. After coming out of seclusion, Lin Feng learned of a piece of news. It was said that the coffin carrier walked out of the Chaos God star field and pulled the ancient stone coffin across the sea of stars. It shocked the world. This news was simply too shocking. The coffin carrier. Just what level of existence was this? He, or they, pulled the ancient stone coffin across the starry sky. What was it for? Just who was the expert buried in the ancient stone coffin? Many experts in the star field were discussing this matter. This was because the coffin carrier was simply too extraordinary. It was a terrifying existence that only appeared in myths and legends. Now, it had actually appeared in the real world. It was simply too shocking. Rumor has it that the first-generation ancestor of the Sovereign Emperor clan, Hong Ming, Taoist Liu Ya, Hong Jun, and ancestor Hunching were buried in the ancient stone coffin. Soon, The news spread out. In fact, Lin Feng had already heard of this rumor. However, no one was able to prove this point. This was only everyone's guess. They were unable to confirm what level of creature was buried in the ancient stone coffin that the coffin carrier was pulling. They were also unable to confirm who those creatures were. It's different this time. It's said that someone found an extremely ancient scripture in an ancient tomb. That scripture recorded the secrets of the coffin carrier and the ancient stone coffin. A shocking piece of news spread throughout the starfield. The appearance of an ancient scripture meant that the secrets of the coffin carrier and the ancient stone coffin would be unraveled. This was truly earth-shattering news, shocking the entire world. When Lin Feng heard this news, he couldn't remain calm. This was because it had something to do with his ancestor. The first-generation ancestor of the sovereign emperor clan had mysteriously disappeared. No one knew where he had gone. Even the descendants of the sovereign clan had lost track of their progenitor. But now, Lin Feng heard about this ancestor. He was buried in an ancient stone coffin. Was this true? If Lin Feng had a choice, Lin Feng would hope that this rumor was false. He didn't want the first-generation ancestor of the sovereign emperor clan to be buried in an ancient stone coffin. To the sovereign emperor clan, that would be a nightmare. Then where is the scripture? Go and find it. Lin Feng ordered the Su brothers to investigate the scripture's whereabouts. He wanted to borrow the ancient Taoist scripture and see what was recorded in it. After receiving the order, the Su brothers mobilized the forces under their control to investigate. But soon, news spread. A mysterious expert. In the blink of an eye, he destroyed the primordial clan that controlled the Tao scripture and snatched it away. Reportedly, the primordial clan that controlled the Tao scripture had 2 saint emperors overseeing it, but they were still destroyed. This matter. Chapter 35-24. When Lin Feng heard this news, he couldn't help but frown. He originally wanted to borrow that Tao scripture, but now it seemed that there was no chance to borrow the Tao scripture. Since the person who attacked had destroyed that ancient force, it could be seen how extraordinary that Tao scripture was. There must be some shocking secrets hidden in it. Rumor has it that the person who attacked was withered like a corpse, but his strength was so powerful that it made the world pale in comparison. I wonder what extraordinary origin that existence has. At this moment, the news came out. Lin Feng had been paying attention to the news of the outside world, so he knew a lot of the news circulating in the outside world like the back of his hand. Now that he heard this news, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly, because he thought of a person, a mummy-like old man. The person that was rumored to be a mummy-like old man. However, that existence's style of doing things seemed to be different from the mummy-like old man. The mummy-like old man from back then broke out of the wooden coffin. All the living beings in the underworld were so shocked that they fled. From this, it could be seen how powerful the mummy-like old man was. Later on, Lin Feng had a few encounters with the mummy-like old man. However, Lin Feng discovered that although the mummy-like old man was decisive, he wasn't a cruel and bloodthirsty person. Unless someone provoked him, he wouldn't do anything to them. I wonder if it's that senior? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He couldn't be sure if the one who attacked was the mummy-like old man. From a personal point of view, Lin Feng didn't hope that it was that senior, because he didn't want that senior to be a bloodthirsty person. However, Lin Feng also knew, in the eyes of countless experts, those ordinary cultivators were probably just ants. So what if they killed them? There wouldn't be any psychological burden at all. Lin Feng continued to ask people to pay attention to the news of the outside world. Soon, another piece of news came out that an elder from the ancient clan had luckily escaped. That elder had once read the Tao scripture. He saw a portion of the contents of the Tao scripture. Therefore, he had some understanding of the contents of the Tao scripture. After this news spread, it immediately caused a huge uproar. Many people went to look for that elder. He wanted to get information about the Tao scripture from that elder. As for the old man who snatched the Tao scripture, no one dared to find trouble with him. An organization with 2 saint emperors had been annihilated with a flick of a finger by that terrifying existence. What more the other forces? Lin Feng decided to explore the Chaos God star field. That incomparably dangerous star field hid a shocking secret. He just did not know if he would be able to see the starry sky coffin carrier. If he could see the cosmic coffin carrier, perhaps he would be able to uncover some secrets. Or perhaps they would be able to find out if the first-generation primogenitor of the Sovereign clan was really buried in the coffin. Lin Feng left the Lone Wolf Star Zone. He went to the Chaos God's star field alone, which was a very dangerous place. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't bring Yu Simon along. As for the Su brothers, Lin Feng had them recruit troops in the Starry Sky world. Perhaps one day, the Su brothers would be of use. The Xinyuan ancient Starry Sky ship quickly flew through the Starry Sky world. It was as fast as lightning. On this day, Lin Feng saw some terrifying gluttonous god demons. Those gluttonous god demons had heaven-defying cultivation bases. There were several sovereigns leading them. I'm so envious. I really want to kill those gluttonous god demons, refine them into gluttonous god fruits, and then eat them. Lin Feng couldn't help but say. The gluttonous god demons' cultivation bases were too terrifying. Therefore, one had to be careful when facing such terrifying creatures. Otherwise, one might very well become food for those gluttonous god demons. Lin Feng was very clear about this. Although he really wanted to kill those gluttonous god demons, Lin Feng knew that his cultivation base wasn't enough to deal with so many terrifying gluttonous god demons. Therefore, he went far away from those gluttonous god demons. Wherever the gluttonous god demons passed by, it was simply a bloody scene. Those cultivators who encountered the gluttonous god demons all met with calamity and became food for those gluttonous god demons. Those gluttonous god demons weren't just incomparably powerful. They were also incomparably vicious. They liked to eat cultivators to increase their cultivation bases. On this day, Lin Feng saw a few dozen cultivators besieging an old man from afar. That old man was covered in blood, but he was very strong. He blocked the attacks of the few dozen cultivators. The old man's counterattacks were also very strong, occasionally killing the cultivators besieging him. Swish! All of a sudden, the space cracked open as a creature with a scorpion tail appeared. It was a space scorpion tail cultivator, an extremely terrifying race in the Starry Sky world, one that very few forces dared to provoke. This race had as many experts as there were clouds in the sky. Furthermore, it was said that they ruled over several large galaxies. This showed just how powerful this force was. The space scorpion tail cultivator's attack was very sudden. He was wielding a blood-red blade. In an instant, one of the old man's arms was cut off. The old man screamed in pain. His body then exploded into a mist of blood and fled into the distance. The old man was heavily injured, so he had no choice but to flee. This kind of battle in the Starry Sky world was actually quite common. Along the way, Lin Feng had seen quite a few of these battles. These battles were either to kill and steal, or to kill between forces. In the world of cultivators, this was a very common thing. There was no need to be surprised. But what Lin Feng didn't expect was that 3 days later, he would see that old man again. The old man was covered in blood, one of his arms was broken, and there was also a wound on his abdomen that went through his entire body. His dantian was almost destroyed, and he suffered an extremely serious Dao injury. The old man fell from the Starry Sky world. His body was obviously reaching its limit. After Lin Feng saw the old man, he couldn't help but frown. It was better to avoid trouble. He shouldn't have cared about the old man's life or death. But even though Lin Feng had been in the cruel world of cultivation for many years, he had seen all kinds of deceit. But deep in his heart, he still retained the kindness and innocence of his youth. So, seeing that the old man was heavily injured and dying, Lin Feng couldn't help but help him. Lin Feng waved his hand. Powerful magic power surged out. It swept towards the old man. The old man was swept up by the magic power. Then, it landed on the ancient Starry Sky ship Xinyuan. At this time, the old man's life aura was extremely weak. Lin Feng took out a life-prolonging pill and fed it to the old man. The old man's aura stabilized a lot. "Thank you for your help, little friend," the old man said. Lin Feng nodded and said, "You're welcome. Rest well." The old man sighed and said, "My injuries are difficult to heal, and I know that I don't have long to live. Perhaps it's fate that we met, little friend. There's something I want to give you, little friend." Oh, what is it? Lin Feng looked at the old man in surprise. But at this time, dozens of cultivators flew in from outside. The person in the lead was the space scorpion tail race expert that Lin Feng had seen before. Kid, hand over that old thing and kill yourself. That way, you can die a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. Chapter 35-25. This space scorpion tail race cultivator was a peak Emperor realm expert. Moreover, the space scorpion tail race was a race with terrifying talent. Therefore, the space scorpion tail race's battle prowess was one of the best among cultivators of the same level. This race's cultivator was extremely powerful and terrifying. Although he was only a peak Emperor realm expert, perhaps this space scorpion tail race cultivator wouldn't be at a disadvantage if he fought against some low-level Emperor realm experts. A young human cultivator like Lin Feng naturally wouldn't be taken seriously by the space scorpion tail race cultivator. In the eyes of this terrifying existence, Lin Feng was like an ant. He wanted to kill Lin Feng. It happened in the blink of an eye. Young friend, I've implicated you. When the old man saw the space scorpion tail race cultivators, his expression became extremely unsightly. He said, later, take advantage of the chaos to escape. Remember, you must be fast. Don't let these people catch up. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man wanted to forcefully circulate his magic power to fight the space scorpion tail race cultivators. He wanted to escape for Lin Feng. He wanted to win precious time. This old man was rather kind-hearted. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and gently patted the old man's body. The magic power condensed on the old man's body dissipated on its own. The old man looked at Lin Feng in shock. Although his injuries were severe, his cultivation level was still there for all to see. The magic power he condensed was actually dissipated by Lin Feng so easily. It was truly inconceivable. It was hard to believe that this was real. However, this was indeed real. Who is this person? How strong is he? The old man couldn't help but think in shock. Such a young human cultivator was so tyrannical. This made the old man suddenly think of the human cultivator who had been in an uproar in the starry sky world recently. Could he be that person? The old man couldn't help but think. At this moment, Lin Feng looked at the space scorpion tail race cultivator. Reckless fool, how dare you be so rude to me? Do you know that you have already committed a capital offense? After hearing Lin Feng's words, everyone was stunned. Then, everyone looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. Lin Feng, a cultivator with such a low cultivation, actually dared to say such presumptuous words to an expert of the space scorpion tail race. Was he tired of living? Brat, you're good. You're good. Just you wait. You'll be kneeling on the ground like a dog and begging me to let you die quickly. A ferocious expression appeared on the face of the space scorpion tail race expert. A young human cultivator dared to be so rude to him. He had completely disregarded him. This caused the space scorpion tail race cultivator's killing intent to soar. The space scorpion tail race cultivator only had one thought in his mind. He had to kill Lin Feng. However, before he killed Lin Feng, he wanted to torture Lin Feng. He wanted to torture Lin Feng until he wished he was dead. Only then could he vent the hatred in his heart. The space scorpion tail race expert waved his hand. The cultivators around him understood tacitly and rushed towards the ancient starship Xianyuan. A great power like the space scorpion tail race naturally had countless followers. These cultivators were all experts who had pledged allegiance to the space scorpion tail race. Of course, most of them were boundary emperors who wanted to use the space scorpion tail race's resources to break through to the great emperor realm. There were also a few great emperors among them. However, their cultivation levels weren't particularly high. 3 of them were god emperors, while 1 was an immortal emperor. The 4 great emperors didn't make a move. They stood together with the space scorpion tail race expert and watched indifferently as the boundary emperors charged at Lin Feng. In the eyes of the space scorpion tail race cultivators, there were dozens of quasi-emperor level cultivators. There were also dozens of peak boundary emperors. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake for them to deal with Lin Feng? As for the severely injured and dying old man, he was targeted by the space scorpion tail race cultivators. If the old man made any strange movements, the Space Scorpion Tail Race cultivators would immediately make a move and launch a thunderous attack on the old man. Kid, have you thought about how you're going to die after offending our Lord? A large group of cultivators surrounded and attacked, each of them wearing a menacing expression. They naturally felt that Lin Feng wouldn't be able to escape death today. At this moment, Lin Feng raised his right hand and gently swept it through the void. Swoosh! Suddenly, a terrifying scene took place. Dense sword chi swept across heaven and earth. It swept out horizontally. It slashed toward the group of cultivators who were charging at him. The sword chi was so powerful that it naturally wasn't something a group of boundary emperors could contend against. Suddenly, a series of tearing sounds were heard. The cultivators' bodies were directly torn apart, and they died tragically on the spot. After seeing those dead cultivators, Lin Feng's face revealed an incomparably cold expression. The world of cultivators was so cruel. If you didn't kill others, you would be killed by others. Lin Feng didn't want to die. Therefore, he would kill these people who wanted to take his life. My eyes were blind. I didn't see that you had such strength. Capture him alive. I'll torture this kid to death later. Otherwise, I won't be able to eliminate the hatred in my heart. The Space Scorpion Tail Race cultivator said in a cold voice. Yes, Lord. The 4 great Emperor-level experts replied. After receiving the order, the 4 great emperors quickly flew toward the ancient starship, wanting to suppress Lin Feng, who was on the ancient starship. Boom, boom, boom. As waves of destructive energy surged out, the 4 great emperors all made their moves. Rushing Thunder Hand, Thousand Demon Palm, 9 Strikes of the Universe, Thunder Thousand Slaughter Dao. The 4 great emperors' divine abilities were very powerful. In an instant, they attacked. However, Lin Feng gently pointed at the void. A divine light flew out. It immediately shattered the 4 great emperors' attacks. What? The expressions of the 4 great emperors changed drastically. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and the shore is at hand. Believe in me as if you believe in a god. All living beings in the world worship me. Lin Feng murmured. He opened his hand, and a powerful purification power surged out. It directly enveloped the 4 great emperors. The powerful purification power directly poured into the 4 great emperors' bodies. The 4 great emperors couldn't resist Lin Feng's great purification technique. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had converted them. Thank you for guiding us, fellow Taoist. Let us let go of the sins of the past. The 4 great emperors put their palms together and looked very pious. They looked at Lin Feng like the most loyal believers looking at their god, even if Lin Feng wanted them to die now. Chapter 35-26. You've actually purified 4 of my subordinates. Who the hell are you, kid? The cultivator from the Space Scorpion Tail Race was an experienced and knowledgeable person, so he immediately recognized the great purification art that Lin Feng had just used. The great purification technique was definitely a peerless technique. Its might was so strong that it was unbelievable. Now that Lin Feng had used the great purification art, it immediately displayed boundless power. He'd purified 4 great emperors in the blink of an eye. This infuriated the Space Scorpion Tail Race cultivator so much that he wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Feng immediately. However, he knew that Lin Feng's identity wasn't to be taken lightly. Moreover, the combat strength that Lin Feng had displayed wasn't something that a quasi-emperor cultivator could display. Was this kid pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Lin Feng said indifferently, if you want to know who I am, you can go to hell and ask the King of Hell. Lin Feng took a step forward and threw a punch at the Space Scorpion Tail Race cultivator. This person was different from the 4 great emperors that Lin Feng had purified. The 4 great emperors that Lin Feng had purified didn't belong to the Space Scorpion Tail Race. They were only temporary subordinates of the Space Scorpion Tail Race. They could choose to leave at any time. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with Lin Feng purifying the 4 of them. However, the Space Scorpion Tail Race cultivator was different. He was from the Space Scorpion Tail Race and had the support of this colossus. If Lin Feng purified this person, then the the space scorpion tail race would definitely send many experts to surround and kill Lin Feng. It was better to end things once and for all. He'd directly kill the space scorpion tail race cultivator. Perhaps he'd be able to completely conceal what had happened today. Of course, if he couldn't conceal what had happened today, Lin Feng would still suffer the space scorpion tail race's revenge. If that really happened, Lin Feng wouldn't be afraid. If that happened, when the time came, he would just have to deal with whatever came his way. Lin Feng's path of supremacy. Fearless. This was destined to be a supreme great Tao that would defeat countless people who stood in its way. Lin Feng's attack was naturally incomparably tyrannical. Sensing Lin Feng's formidable attack, the Space Scorpion clan cultivator's face involuntarily sank. He punched out and collided with Lin Feng's fist. He was immediately swept away by Lin Feng. Swish! The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator took out his blood-red saber. Blood blade 36 slashes. The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator could not help but shout coldly. Next, he unleashed a violent attack on Lin Feng. He swung the blood-red saber 36 times in a row. The blood-red long saber slashed out 36 blood-red saber lights. Every blade light. It was as if they had the power to destroy the world. That terrifying power was simply shocking to the extreme. 36 saber lights merged together in an instant, erupting into a terrifying attack that could shake one's heart. The fused saber gleam. It locked onto Lin Feng. It directly slashed down. The situation was extremely dangerous. It seemed that Lin Feng was about to be torn apart by the blade light. Right at this moment, Lin Feng waved his right hand. 3 stone swords flew out. Each stone sword contained a peerless sharpness. The 3 stone swords gently shook the void. Instantly, they completely destroyed the opponent's blade light. After that, the 3 stone swords slashed at the Space Scorpion tail race cultivator as fast as lightning. Break! The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator's expression was cold. His eyes were flashing with dense killing intent. Holding the blood-red long saber in his hand, he stepped forward and waved it. In an instant, there were layers of blood-red light. The blade light surged between heaven and earth. Billions of blood-red light. Billions of blade light. They blended together. Heaven and earth seemed to have become a world of blade light and blood-red light. The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator's attack was truly terrifying and shocking. Clang, clang, clang. A series of collisions rang out, accompanied by the earth-shaking sounds of collisions. Even the void was shattered. Lin Feng's 3 stone swords were actually blocked by the Space Scorpion tail race cultivator. Strong. It was really too strong. The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator was actually able to block the power of Lin Feng's 3 stone swords. It was really unbelievable. Of course, Lin Feng had yet to use the troops mantra, because Lin Feng felt that there was no need for that at all. This Space Scorpion tail race cultivator was indeed very powerful, but so what? Lin Feng was not afraid of cultivators of his level now. The 3 stone swords once again attacked the Space Scorpion tail race cultivator. The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator directly used a sweeping move. It swept towards Lin Feng's 3 stone swords. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of collision rang out again. The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator swept away Lin Feng's 3 stone swords again. He couldn't help but feel very proud. He felt that he could break Lin Feng's stone swords after a few more rounds of battle. At that time, Lin Feng would definitely die. But at this moment, Lin Feng had already arrived behind the Space Scorpion tail race cultivator. He held the Black Dragon sword in his hand and directly slashed at the Space Scorpion tail race cultivator. The power of that sword was really too tyrannical. It directly split the void. Then, the terrifying sword chi instantly arrived in front of the Space Scorpion tail race cultivator. The Space Scorpion tail race cultivator's expression was indifferent. He waved the blood-colored long saber in his hand to block Lin Feng's attack. The scorpion's tail stood upright. Then, it quickly stabbed towards Lin Feng's body. The barb at the end of the scorpion tail flickered with a blue luster. It obviously contained a strong poison. However, the poisonous barb at the end of the scorpion tail couldn't pierce Lin Feng's body. Therefore, Lin Feng's 3 stone swords flew over and directly cut off the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's Scorpion Tail. The Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's Scorpion Tail was extremely important to him. Therefore, when his Scorpion Tail was cut off by Lin Feng's stone swords, the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's Scorpion Tail was injured. It was equivalent to being heavily injured, so the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator let out a painful cry. He wanted to quickly withdraw and retreat, but it was too late. Lin Feng's 3 stone swords quickly slashed over. Meanwhile, the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's mind was tied down by Lin Feng. Therefore, he couldn't block the attack of the 3 stone swords. Poochie, poochie, poochie. 3 consecutive ripping sounds suddenly came out. The 3 stone swords directly pierced through the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's body. How can this be? The Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator looked at the 3 stone swords that pierced through his body in disbelief. The next moment, he felt a pain in his head. Then, he saw his head fly into the air. A pillar of blood spurted out from his severed neck. Then, endless darkness engulfed him. The Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator lost all consciousness. Chapter 35-27. Although the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator was powerful, he was still killed by Lin Feng in the end. Lin Feng destroyed the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's body and took his origin. Then, he took the Space Scorpion Tail Race Cultivator's storage ring. He returned to the Xinyuan ancient starship. The 4 great emperors also arrived one after another. Lin Feng planned to leave the 4 on the Xinyuan ancient starship. Currently, the various attacks of the ancient starship Xinyuan were driven by puppet cultivators transformed from puppet cultivators using the art of puppetry. Therefore, they couldn't fully display the Xinyuan ancient starship's strength. With the 4 great emperors overseeing the Xinyuan ancient starship, they should be able to fully display the Xinyuan ancient starship's power. Young friend, are you Lin Feng, a human prodigy? The old man looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng nodded. Yes. The old man said, young friend, you're truly a heaven-defying prodigy that only appears once in a trillion years. After sighing with emotion, the old man's right hand flashed, and an item suddenly appeared in his hand. It was a jade tube. There was nothing special about it. It was probably just a memory jade tube that recorded some scenes. The old man said, I can't hold on any longer. This jade tube records some things that many people want to know. Young friend, take it. Once you're done, destroy it. Don't leave any evidence behind. All right. Lin Feng took the jade tube and nodded. The old man looked at the boundless starry world and couldn't help but feel extremely sad. This starry world buried my clansmen. Now, I plan to bury myself in the boundless starry sky. I hope to reunite with my clansmen on the road to the Yellow Springs. The old man said. His voice was filled with sorrow. He didn't stop. Instead, he soared into the sky and left Lin Feng's ancient starship. Lin Feng didn't stop him. There was no one who could heal the old man. Being buried in the starry sky was his final wish. What reason did Lin Feng have to stop the old man? When the old man's figure was completely out of sight, the Xinyuan ancient starry sky ship quickly flew into the distance. Lin Feng returned to the cabin. Then, he sat down cross-legged. His divine sense entered the jade tube. Suddenly, some memories flooded into Lin Feng's mind. Those memories. They were all memories about a Taoist scripture. He's from that clan. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The primordial clan from before had obtained the Tao scripture. This caused quite a stir. But in the end, they were killed. The old man should be the only cultivator from that clan who managed to escape. He was the elder that was widely rumored to be in the outside world. The memories in the jade tube were what the old man had seen from the Taoist scripture. The Taoist scripture was very mysterious. Although the contents recorded in it were very shocking, not everyone could see the contents of the Taoist scripture. According to the contents of the jade tube, it was clear that the contents of the Tao scripture were not something that could be read just because one wanted to. The Tao scripture was very mysterious, and it was surrounded by the power of restrictions. If anyone wanted to see the contents, they would have to personally break the restrictions on the Tao scripture. Moreover, It was said that the restrictions on the Tao scripture would be different for each person who saw it. When the old man had first read the Tao scripture, he had only managed to break 3 or 4 restrictions. Therefore, the contents he saw were very limited. However, Lin Feng still managed to learn some shocking things from the limited contents. This part of the Tao scripture was related to the ancient stone coffin. There were indeed some terrifying beings buried in the ancient stone coffin. However, because Lin Feng's information was limited, Lin Feng didn't know who was buried in the ancient stone coffin. An existence buried in the ancient stone coffin. Could it be the sovereign emperor clan's first-generation primogenitor, or someone like primordial chaos? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Even now, he still couldn't determine who was buried in the ancient stone coffin. The complete Taoist scripture might have records of it. However, the information he had was too limited. Therefore, he couldn't determine the exact situation inside the ancient stone coffin. Only if Lin Feng personally opened the coffin would he be able to find out who was buried inside. The ancient ship Xianyuan continued to fly in the direction of the Chaos God Starfield. In the Space Scorpion Tail Clan, news of the death of the Space Scorpion Tail Clan's cultivator by Lin Feng had spread. The patriarch of the Space Scorpion Tail Clan had personally issued an order to find out who had killed their cultivator. Lin Feng didn't know about this. Of course, even if Lin Feng knew, he probably wouldn't care. On this day, Lin Feng saw a huge starfield. It was surrounded by an endless aura of death. Some cultivators arrived one after another, but they all avoided the starfield. Lin Feng summoned the immortal Emperor Cultivator. The cultivator's name was Chu Mabai. Lin Feng asked, "Do you know where that starfield is? Why are so many cultivators avoiding that star region?" "Young master, that starfield is called the Demon Fall Starfield. It used to be a prosperous place, but for some unknown reason, the Demon Fall Starfield was destroyed overnight. Countless living beings disappeared, and the Demon Fall Starfield was shrouded in the power of death. The power of time and the power of death fused together, and it could devour the lives of cultivators at any time. It's an extremely dangerous place, and no one is willing to take the risk," Chu Mabai said. A huge starfield was destroyed overnight? Moreover, countless living beings in that star field had disappeared? What the hell happened? How could it be so strange? Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. "I'm not sure. However, it's said that cultivators who entered the Demon Fall Starfield to explore didn't have a good ending. As time passed, no one dared to enter the Demon Fall Starfield anymore," Chu Mabai said. Lin Feng nodded. The Demon Fall Starfield was very strange, but it wasn't enough to scare Lin Feng away. He planned to explore the Demon Fall Starfield and perhaps find something. Lin Feng entered the Demon Fall Starfield. Many stars had turned into stars of death. This place was very terrifying. Fortunately, Lin Feng had grasped the law of time. Otherwise, his lifespan would be greatly reduced. In fact, it was possible that his lifespan would be completely stripped away. In the end, Lin Feng landed on a gigantic planet. On that planet, there was a gigantic godly temple, which was in perfect condition. Lin Feng had just arrived outside the temple when he encountered a calamity. An unknown power had struck Lin Feng. Chapter 35-28. Lin Feng hurriedly used the archaic dragon-esque elephant art to resist the terrible feeling of his head splitting apart. When the archaic dragon-esque elephant art was activated, Lin Feng's terrible feeling of his head splitting apart finally dissipated. "This place is very strange." Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. The temple was strange, perhaps hiding some unknown danger. Lin Feng carefully walked inside. When he entered the temple, he saw that there was a huge python enshrined on the altar, which shocked Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't understand why such a gigantic snake was worshipped in the godly temple. Lin Feng didn't understand why such a gigantic snake would be worshipped in the temple. What was the origin of the temple? Lin Feng couldn't help but ponder. In addition to the huge python, the pillars of the temple were also densely covered with murals of all shapes and sizes. However, Lin Feng saw many pictures of sacrifices, and the god being sacrificed was a huge python. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. the sacrifice of the totem era? The ancient totem culture belonged to the early period of this era. At that time, a huge beast, a person, a tree, a stone, a cauldron, and so on could all become an immortal totem. This was the extraordinary part of the totem culture. The totem culture represented the beliefs of the various great eras, or rather, it was a kind of spiritual pillar. However, the totem culture was eventually eliminated by time. Until now, no one mentioned the totem culture. After all, it had disappeared for too long. Many things that happened back then had already become a mystery. No one knew what kind of environment gave birth to the totem culture at that time. Lin Feng had come into contact with the totem culture in the past. However, his knowledge was limited. The totem culture originated from the absolute beginning era. To be able to become a totem, one must have extraordinary abilities. Look at this python. It actually became the totem of so many factions and tribes. From this, you can see how extraordinary that python is. You must know that in the era of the totem culture, the major factions had just begun to develop. There was very little communication with the outside world, so those tribes and factions all had their own totems that they believed in. It's very rare for many tribes and factions to believe in a single totem, but the fact that something like this has happened is enough to explain a lot of problems. The Demon Lord said. Lin Feng was surprised. He didn't expect the Demon Lord to know about the distant totem culture. However, the Demon Lord was becoming more and more mysterious recently. Lin Feng felt that the current Demon Lord was not the same as the Demon Lord of the past. Lin Feng guessed that it might have something to do with the awakening of the memories, because as time passed, the Demon Lord's memories gradually, and as these, the memories that the Yao Lord awakened naturally increased as well. Lin Feng said, in that case, this huge temple should have been built in the era of the totem culture? At this point, Lin Feng felt that it was very inconceivable, because, in the era of the totem culture, many factions still existed in the form of tribes. Basically, there were no big cities, not to mention all kinds of temples. And those factions also worship totems in an open environment. The Demon Lord said, there is indeed such a possibility. Although the era of the totem culture gives people a feeling of being very backward. However, in every era, there are some factions that grasp methods that the factions of the same era can't grasp. Therefore, it's not strange that someone built such a temple. Lin Feng said, this python, I wonder what kind of existence it was in the past? He carefully searched the temple, hoping to find something special. However, Lin Feng didn't find anything. Although this place was very old, there were no ancient treasures. However, there were no ancient treasures that had been passed down. Of course, it was also possible that some things had been passed down, but it had long been taken away by others. Rumble. At this moment, an earth-shaking sound came from outside. After hearing the sound, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. What was that sound? It caused the void to tremble. Lin Feng rushed out of the temple and immediately revealed an incomparably shocked expression. He saw an old man pulling an ancient coffin toward him from the distance. The old man's clothes were ragged, and his hair was disheveled. 4 chains were wrapped around his body. The 4 chains were connected to the ancient sarcophagus. Every step he took seemed to be very difficult. The mysterious ancient stone coffin was densely covered with runes. It suppressed the heavens and made it difficult to approach. A cosmic coffin carrier. Lin Feng was shocked. That old man must be a cosmic coffin carrier. Lin Feng really didn't expect to encounter a cosmic coffin carrier here. It was rumored. There was more than one cosmic coffin carrier. Someone had once seen 2 different cosmic coffin carriers. Every cosmic coffin carrier was incomparably powerful and mysterious, just like the one Lin Feng saw. Ancient stone coffin, did you really bury those mighty existences? Lin Feng's gaze could no longer shift away from the ancient stone coffin. The cosmic coffin carrier pulled the ancient stone coffin across the starry world. Between heaven and earth, Tao sounds could be heard, shaking the starry world for hundreds of thousands of miles. In the end, the cosmic coffin carrier landed on the planet Lin Feng was on. Lin Feng left the temple and walked toward the cosmic coffin carrier. Lin Feng finally saw the cosmic coffin carrier clearly. It was actually a human expert. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Which human expert was this in the past? He's definitely not a nobody, but now he's in such a miserable state. Lin Feng sighed, feeling very sad as he looked at such a sage of the human race. He lost himself. He became a cosmic coffin carrier. This made him feel very sorrowful. In the past, he was once invincible in the universe, but now he was in such a miserable state. The cosmic coffin carrier should really be cursed. Otherwise, why would he keep pulling the ancient stone coffin forward? Lin Feng murmured. The demon lord said, "This seems like a punishment." Lin Feng nodded. Just as Yao Jun had said, this was indeed like a form of punishment. However, this sort of punishment was a little too cruel. No one could endure such a punishment. It would make the person who suffered such a punishment suffer a fate worse than death. Suddenly, the body of the star sky coffin carrier trembled violently. He let out an incomparably shrill cry as monstrous demonic chi surged out of his body. The demonic chi emitted a trace of pressure that almost killed Lin Feng. Chapter 35-29. Lin Feng retreated more than 1,000 meters before the terrifying pressure dissipated. He looked at the terrifying cosmic coffin carrier with a solemn expression. He didn't know why the coffin carrier had suddenly emitted such a terrifying aura. The demonic aura churned violently, enveloping the coffin carrier within it. From time to time, he would let out low, miserable cries. Could it be that he still has a trace of consciousness that he hasn't completely lost? Lin Feng thought of a possibility. Now, that starry sky coffin carrier was trying his best to regain his consciousness. However, it was very difficult for him to do so. In the end, he restrained his demonic aura. The coffin carrier pulled the ancient sarcophagus into the sky and quickly rushed into the distance. Lin Feng chased after it. He wanted to open the ancient sarcophagus and see what kind of terrifying existence was buried inside. However, Lin Feng couldn't catch up to the coffin carrier. The coffin carrier was simply too fast. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel shocked. Lin Feng stood in the starry sky world in silence. He had seen the coffin carrier, but he hadn't been able to find out the secrets of the coffin carrier and the ancient sarcophagus. Perhaps he would only be able to find out after reaching the Chaos God Starfield. After all, it was said that the coffin carrier had come from the Chaos God Starfield. That place hid the secrets of the coffin carrier. Lin Feng planned to leave the Demon Fall Starfield. He felt that this place was filled with a power that made him feel very uncomfortable. Lin Feng flew into the distance. In the end, he successfully left the Demon Fall Starfield. However, Lin Feng had the feeling that something was wrong. He had the feeling that something was following him. Lin Feng looked behind him, but he couldn't find anything. 3 months later, Lin Feng arrived at the Chaos God Starfield. A large number of cultivators had gathered outside the Chaos God Starfield. Several coffin carriers have already entered the Chaos God Starfield. There must be a great secret hidden here. What kind of living being is buried in the ancient sarcophagus? Whether or not the first progenitor of the Sovereign Clan, Primordial Chaos, and the other powerful experts will soon be revealed. Rumor has it that there will be Emperor-level experts descending to personally explore the secrets of the coffin carriers and the ancient stone coffins. Many pieces of news were spreading rapidly. Lin Feng had been looking for all sorts of information because one of the creatures buried in the stone coffins might be one of his ancestors. Lin Feng's heart was pounding at that moment. The first primogenitor of the Sovereign Imperial Clan was simply too important to them. He had created the glory of the Sovereign Emperor Clan. In fact, some of the most ancient orthodoxies of the Sovereign Emperor Clan had disappeared along with their progenitor. The descendants of the sovereign race hoped that their primogenitor was still alive. Given the progenitor's strength, he should have been able to survive until now. Lin Feng also hoped that the primogenitor was still alive. He didn't want the primogenitor to be buried in a coffin. More and more cultivators gathered outside the Chaos God Star region. But so far, very few people had entered the Chaos God Star region. This was because the Chaos God Star region was simply too dangerous. It was densely covered with terrifying restrictions that had yet to dissipate. Recklessly entering could lead to disaster. Woo! The sound of a bugle horn came from the depths of the Chaos God's star region. Not long after, everyone heard an earth-shattering sound. Many cultivators looked toward the depths of the Chaos God's star region and frowned. This was because they saw an army crushing through the sky in the depths of the Chaos God's star region. Then, they quickly disappeared. Rumor has it that the Chaos God star region is connected to the Netherworld. That's why the Netherworld's army has appeared, a cultivator said. This news had spread out a long time ago, and many people had discussed this matter before. However, not many cultivators believed in this rumor. But now that everyone had seen that terrifying army, many people couldn't help but believe it without a doubt. The Chaos God star region was far more terrifying and complex than one could imagine. Not long after, another piece of news broke out. This star region seemed to be connected to the wasteland in space-time. This rumor caused a huge uproar. The wasteland, a place that no one was willing to talk about. A place so terrifying that it made countless living beings tremble. The wasteland was very mysterious. It was located in an unknown space-time. It was connected to the Heaven Realm, the Underworld, the Chaos Xinhuang Realm, and the Foreign Realms. However, this didn't mean that the wasteland wasn't connected to other worlds. In fact, the wasteland was connected to some worlds and some special star regions. However, this connection was just a spatial rift. Such a place was incomparably dangerous. If one wanted to enter the wasteland through a spatial rift, 100 lives. It wasn't enough to fill in. There were more and more rumors about the Chaos God star region. Some top forces also arrived one after another. For example, the myriad races Sacred God Clan, Ancient God Clan, and other forces sent experts. Although 5 Emperor Lords of the myriad race had fallen, the myriad race was still incomparably powerful. This was because the myriad race still had sacred emperors, and there was more than one. Especially recently, there were rumors that several sacred emperors of the myriad race wanted to use the heavenly sage Great World's world origin to break through to the Emperor Lord realm. This matter caused quite a stir. Ordinary sacred emperors wouldn't try to break through to the Emperor Lord realm if they weren't confident, because once they failed, they would be doomed. Those sage emperors who had cultivated to their level were all extremely powerful. No one knew how many hardships they had gone through. Therefore, they would definitely cherish their lives. They wouldn't casually break through to the Emperor Lord realm. However, since those sacred emperors of the myriad race planned to break through to the Emperor Lord realm, those sacred emperors might really be able to break through successfully. The myriad race was still a giant force in the vast starry sky. Lin Feng also saw the experts of the Heavenly Devil Clan. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man with a tall and imposing figure. He was powerful and intimidating. There are many branches of the Heavenly Devil Clan, but this person is the patriarch of the main branch of the Heavenly Devil Clan. He's called the Heavenly Devil Cultivator. A cultivator said. He recognized the cultivator's identity. When Lin Feng heard this name, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Heavenly Devil Cultivator. This name was too familiar. Wasn't this the father of Gong Xinye and Gong Ziyu? Lin Feng and Gong Ziyu had a close relationship. That was why he had heard Gong Ziyu mention some of his past. Gong Ziyu's father, the Heavenly Devil Cultivator, was the person with the most terrifying talent in the history of the Heavenly Devil Clan. However, Gong Ziyu didn't have any good impression of the Heavenly Devil Cultivator, even if the Heavenly Devil Cultivator was Gong Ziyu's father. Chapter 35:30. Of course, Gong Ziyu's background, Gong Ziyu's past, and everything that had happened to Gong Ziyu. It was all too complicated. Many things couldn't be explained in a few words. Gong Xinye. Lin Feng frowned as he saw Gong Xinye beside the Heavenly Devil Cultivator. Gong Xinye had become even stronger. His aura was very terrifying. This person was not simple. Although no one in the younger generation of the myriad races considered Gong Xinye to be the strongest. But in reality, Lin Feng felt that Gong Xinye was definitely not inferior to the young paragons of the myriad races. Of course, those young paragons had never appeared, so Lin Feng didn't know how strong they were. However, Gong Xinye gave Lin Feng an extremely dangerous feeling. There were very few young cultivators who could make Lin Feng feel this way. Lin Feng combined his own cultivation with the feeling of danger that Gong Ziyu gave him. In the end, he deduced Gong Xinye's position in the younger generation of the myriad races. At this moment, Gong Xinye was whispering something to his father, the heavenly devil cultivator. Although Gong Xinye and Gong Ziyu were blood brothers, but they were distant, there was still a difference. It was said that the support of Gong Xinye's mother's family was inseparable from the heavenly devil cultivator's position, and Gong Ziyu was ostracized because of his poor background. His mother was only a maidservant. The heavenly devil imperial family viewed Gong Ziyu as a lowly person. They viewed him as a disgrace to the heavenly devil imperial family. This was also the fundamental reason why the heavenly devil imperial family turned a blind eye to the experts on Gong Xinye's side, repeatedly trying to kill Gong Ziyu. I wonder where Gong Ziyu is now? Lin Feng muttered to himself. He and Gong Ziyu went from enemies to friends. Then, they experienced life and death together and became close friends. Too many things had happened in between. Lin Feng actually admired Gong Ziyu a lot. However, everyone had different destinies and missions. No matter how close they were, it was impossible for them to be together forever. Sooner or later, they would have to part. Lin Feng left the area to avoid being discovered by the Heaven Devil race. If he was really discovered, how could the Heaven Devil race let him go? Not far away, there were also experts from the Shangsheng clan, Ancient God clan, and other forces. These myriad races hated Lin Feng to the bone. Lin Feng wandered around the outskirts of the Chaos God star field. He went to several places and saw many powerful forces. Lin Feng also saw the Angel race, the Fallen Angel race, the Blood Wolf race, the Golden Saint Lion race, the Nine-Headed Bug race, and other races experts. These were all forces of the myriad races. He even saw Nalan Monli. Nalan Monli was the saintess of the Fallen Angel race. She was the goddess in the hearts of countless people. Back then, she formed an alliance with many geniuses of the myriad races to kill Lin Feng, but they failed several times. Later, Nalan Monli, Yu Simon, and the others went to find the purple flame gold lotus. After finding the purple flame gold lotus, Yu Simon ambushed Nalan Monli and the other 12 people. The other 12 people were killed by Yu Simon, and Nalan Monli was injured. At this time, Lin Feng suddenly appeared and captured Yu Simon and Nalan Monli. Nalan Monli was as beautiful as ever. Compared to before, the current Nalan Monli had an additional charm. Perhaps it was because she had lost her chastity. Perhaps it was because she had become a married woman. Such a charming temperament. It made Nalan Monli even more charming. However, Lin Feng did not greet Nalan Monli. He did not want to have any more interactions with Nalan Monli. Moreover, if Nalan Monli saw him, Lin Feng believed that Nalan Monli would kill him without hesitation. In another area, Lin Feng saw a group of extremely terrifying existences. Many cultivators were discussing in low voices. That group of experts came from the Undying Realm. The cultivators of the Undying Realm had begun to move around. Lin Feng did not know if the group of people in the distance had anything to do with the cultivators of the Undying Realm who had dealt with Supreme Emperor Myriad Star back then. Immeasurable Taoist. Lin Feng was shocked. He saw an old acquaintance dressed in a Taoist robe sneakily. Who else could it be but Immeasurable Taoist? It had been a long time since Lin Feng had seen Immeasurable Taoist. Unexpectedly, he would see Immeasurable Taoist here. Didn't this damn Taoist go to the myriad races' lair to steal the ancient tombs left behind by the ancestors of the myriad races? Why would he appear here? Lin Feng could not help but mutter. Immeasurable Taoist had a shifty-eyed look. This guy belonged to the type of cultivator who was wretched and developed. Usually, he was extremely shameless and wretched, but in reality, his methods were extremely shocking. Even Lin Feng could not see through Immeasurable Taoist. Immeasurable Taoist was very fast. He disappeared quickly. Lin Feng followed behind Immeasurable Taoist and left together. Damn Taoist! Wait for me! In an empty starry sky world, Lin Feng shouted loudly. Immeasurable Taoist acted as if he did not hear Lin Feng's shout and ignored Lin Feng. Swoosh! Immeasurable Taoist crushed a jade talisman and instantly teleported through the void. disappearing without a trace. Lin Feng could not help but have black lines on his forehead. Could it be that this damned Taoist has discovered some treasure again and is unwilling to share it with me, so he chose not to acknowledge me? Lin Feng could not help but mutter. This was immeasurable Taoist's usual style. When this damned Taoist found some treasures, this damned Taoist would not choose to acknowledge Lin Feng. Because this damned Taoist wanted to take the treasures for himself. Lin Feng had seen this situation before. Ever since Lin Feng cultivated the Tao of space passed down by the god of space, his use of space had already reached a rather profound level. Therefore, immeasurable Taoist wanted to get rid of him. This was not an easy task. After Lin Feng locked onto immeasurable Taoist's aura, he also teleported through the void and left. The Chaos God starfield was incomparably huge. If one looked from afar in the starry sky world, one could see. The Chaos God starfield was like a huge, oval-shaped starfield. Around the Chaos God starfield, there was a terrifying power that distorted space and time. Immeasurable Taoist flew around the Chaos God starfield. This guy seemed to be looking for something. In a place where a space-time storm was raging, Immeasurable Taoist stopped. Is it here? Immeasurable Taoist could not help but mutter. Then, he looked around furtively and found that there was no one around. This damned Taoist entered the space-time storm. After Immeasurable Taoist entered the space-time storm, Lin Feng stepped out of the void. This damned Taoist's methods are getting more and more powerful. The space-time storm has no effect on him. Chapter 35-31. The Hurricane Pearl froze all the storms. Under the protection of the Hurricane Pearl, Lin Feng shuttled through the space-time storm. This was the space-time storm outside the Chaos God starfield. Further in, this was the Chaos God starfield. Immeasurable Taoist searched for a long time before finding this place. Lin Feng did not know what Immeasurable Taoist was looking for. However, every time this damned Taoist made a move, it was extremely extraordinary. It was not a peerless soul treasure. It was difficult for Immeasurable Taoist to place so much importance on it. Thus, Lin Feng guessed that what Immeasurable Taoist was looking for must be extremely extraordinary. Since Immeasurable Taoist did not want to share it with him, then he would follow this damned Taoist. Once he discovered the treasure, then he would snatch the treasure away and anger this damned Taoist to death. Soon, Lin Feng saw Immeasurable Taoist in front of him. This fellow also had extremely powerful methods, allowing him to freely travel through the space-time storm. From beginning to end, Lin Feng had never been able to figure out Immeasurable Taoist's background. This fellow was definitely not as simple as being a descendant of the moving mountain Taoist. He must have an extremely extraordinary identity, but Lin Feng still did not know what this identity was. But Lin Feng believed it. As time passed, Immeasurable Taoist's identity would definitely be exposed. Immeasurable Taoist arrived at the outer region of the Chaos God starfield. He shrunk his head and looked inside. Then, this fellow squatted in the starry sky, his right hand constantly gesturing something in the air. Immeasurable Taoist was deducing. This fellow had obtained a portion of the innate 8 trigrams. Previously, Lin Feng wanted to use other sacred arts to exchange for the innate 8 trigrams. But he was rejected by this damned Taoist. Now, Lin Feng had obtained the complete innate 8 trigrams. Lin Feng really wanted to know what kind of expression Immeasurable Taoist would have when he found out. After Immeasurable Taoist deduced for a while, he decided to take action. His gaze looked towards the Chaos God starfield. Immeasurable Taoist muttered, "Wealth comes from danger. If you don't take risks, how can you get good things?" After muttering for a while, this fellow entered the Chaos God starfield. Lin Feng also entered the Chaos God starfield after the Immeasurable Taoist. The Chaos God starfield was extremely dangerous. All kinds of terrifying restrictions swept over. There were many restrictions that couldn't be avoided. Lin Feng was an array grandmaster. There was no way to avoid it. He had no choice but to resist those restrictions, not to mention the others. Against those restrictions, it would definitely be difficult to deal with. The Immeasurable Taoist's methods were very powerful. He was able to move freely through the restrictions. Lin Feng's methods were also very powerful. He was also able to freely shuttle through the restrictions. For Lin Feng, the successor of the Celestial Master Path, although these restrictions were extremely terrifying, they could not hurt him. But not long after, a terrifying power swept over. They were beams of light. It contained the power of death. That kind of beam. It was the aurora of death, which could be described as apocalyptic. The aurora of death locked onto immeasurable Taoist and Lin Feng. They were all sent flying by the death aurora. Lin Feng's millions of years of lifespan were instantly devoured. He was shocked. This aurora of death was too terrifying. It could actually devour his lifespan. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. The immeasurable Taoist took out a mysterious supreme treasure. It was a small golden bell. The small golden bell rapidly expanded. Endless golden light poured down, protecting the immeasurable Taoist. When the aurora of death swept over again, it was immediately blocked by the golden light. Lin Feng took out the ruler's armor. The ruler's armor protected Lin Feng. The aurora of death swept over Lin Feng's ruler's armor. All the power was neutralized by the ruler's armor. The supreme treasure, the ruler's armor, was indeed too powerful, and its effect was extremely obvious. It helped Lin Feng resolve the danger before him. This aurora of death is too terrifying. How many people will be killed by it? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He seemed to have seen countless people aging and dying under the aurora of death. This aurora of death was magic power. It was a power that divine ability couldn't resist. It contained the terrifying power to take away one's life. Only powerful magic treasures could resist the power of the aurora of death. Of course, not all supreme treasures could resist the aurora of death. Only those extremely high-grade treasures would be able to do so. Lin Feng felt that even his defensive magic treasure, the Heavenly Mystery Pagoda, couldn't resist the attack of the aurora of death. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the aurora of death was. Lin Feng continued to walk deeper. The aurora of death swept over from time to time, but it couldn't cause any harm to Lin Feng. Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist maintained a distance of several thousand meters. So even when the aurora of death swept him away, Lin Feng wasn't discovered by the immeasurable Taoist. Now, Lin Feng was following closely behind the immeasurable Taoist all the way into the Chaos God's starfield. Now, there were very few cultivators who entered the Chaos God starfield, because the Chaos God starfield was simply too dangerous. Many cultivators from various forces were still waiting for the restrictions of the Chaos God starfield to disperse. So, Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist didn't see any other cultivators along the way. However, they did encounter a few powerful beasts. Those beasts were very terrifying. Lin Feng and the immeasurable Taoist didn't fight with those cultivators. Instead, they hid far away from those beasts. Finally, the immeasurable Taoist entered a mountain range, Dragon Vein, and it's a place where 27 dragon veins gather. This is too heaven-defying. When Lin Feng saw the mountain range, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. That mountain range was very special. It was made up of 9 mountain ridges gathered together. The 9 mountain ridges were like the bodies of 9 giant dragons, emitting a terrifying pressure. And underground, there were still 18 dragon veins hidden. Ordinary people might not be able to see the 18 dragon veins hidden underground, but Lin Feng had an extremely deep understanding of array formations, so he was naturally able to see it with a single glance. And the immeasurable Taoist was proficient in feng shui secret arts. The immeasurable Taoist should have a deeper understanding of the 27 dragon veins here. Lin Feng entered the mountain range. Within the mountain range, purple dragon chi rose, emitting waves of astonishing dragon aura fluctuations. Dragon God Grass. Not long after, Lin Feng saw a plant. It was completely golden in color and shaped like a dragon's body. It was bent together, vigorous and powerful. When he saw the plant, Lin Feng's face revealed a shocked expression. The dragon godgrass was a very rare heaven and earth treasure. Rumor had it that only in the place where the divine dragon had fallen would a heaven and earth treasure like the dragon godgrass grow. And now, the dragon godgrass actually appeared here. Could it be? This place. Chapter 35-32. Divine Dragon. Of course, it referred to powerful creatures like the Eastern Divine Dragon. Among the dragons, the bloodline of the Eastern Divine Dragon was noble, and the Eastern Divine Dragon was extremely rare. It was said that, in the heyday of the past, there were only 7 or 8 Eastern Divine Dragons. Moreover, pure-blooded Eastern Divine Dragons were even rarer. Human cultivators were different from demon cultivators and beast cultivators. Human cultivators paid attention to the unity of man and nature and the cycle of yin and yang. Therefore, human cultivators pursued a kind of balance. For example, there was the yin-yang realm. It was to strengthen one's foundation, and there were 2 types of bloodlines, the cycle of yin and yang. But for beast cultivators, demon cultivators, and even some cultivators of other races, because their physical bodies were incomparably powerful. Therefore, they regarded their physical bodies and their bloodlines as a kind of balance. And at this moment, having one bloodline was far more beneficial to one's cultivation than having 2 bloodlines. This was the origin of the pure-blooded bloodline. Pure-blooded phoenixes, pure-blooded cheilants, pure-blooded divine dragons, etc. These creatures with pure-blooded bloodlines represented power. Of course, Lin Feng did not know whether the divine dragon that died here was pure-blooded or not. But even if it was not a pure-blooded Eastern divine dragon, it was shocking enough. For so many years, Lin Feng had seen too few Eastern divine dragons. The only living Eastern dragon god he had come into contact with was Long Outyin. Long Outyin was sealed in the stone ball and broke out after countless years. But in the end, the mysterious woman in the demonic bead devoured the divine power in his body. Now, Lin Feng did not know where the ruffian Eastern divine dragon, Long Outyin, had run off to. Perhaps he was looking for a place to recover his divine power. Buzz. At this moment, a violent wave came from the mountain river ring. Lin Feng was shocked. It was the wave from the dragon egg. The dragon egg was only 1 step away from hatching. But the last step was often the most difficult. Lin Feng had been looking for a treasure that could hatch the dragon egg, but unfortunately, he had not found it. Now the dragon egg was actively emitting a powerful wave. Was it because of the dragon god grass? Could it be that the dragon god grass could help the dragon eggs hatch? Thinking of this, Lin Feng's face suddenly lit up with joy. It would be great if the dragon god grass could really help the dragon eggs hatch. Lin Feng had always wanted to know what race the baby dragon was from. That was because this little dragon was too heaven-defying. It hadn't even hatched yet, but it already possessed extremely high intelligence. Therefore, Lin Feng guessed that the little dragon born from the dragon egg would not be an ordinary dragon. Lin Feng quickly plucked the dragon godgrass and placed it beside the dragon egg in his mountain river ring. However, the dragon egg didn't seem to be interested in the dragon godgrass. Is the dragon god grass useless to you? Lin Feng asked. Xiaolong's voice came from the dragon egg. The little fellow's voice was childish as he said, "This thing is indeed of no use to me. The reason why I woke up was because I sensed the aura of the divine dragon's inner core." Lin Feng was very surprised. There was actually a divine dragon's inner core here. That meant there was really a powerful divine dragon that had fallen here. Can you sense its exact location? Lin Feng asked. Xiaolong sighed and said, "There seems to be a strange force blocking my senses. I can only sense the general aura, but I can't sense its exact location." Lin Feng was puzzled. What was blocking Xiaolong's senses? This mountain range was extraordinary to begin with. Perhaps it was hiding some shocking secrets. Otherwise, it wouldn't have attracted immeasurable Taoist. Is the divine dragon's inner core useful to you? Lin Feng asked. Xiaolong said, "Then I'll have to see what grade it is. Only then will I be able to determine if it's effective." Hearing this, Lin Feng nodded. He said, "Wait patiently for a while. I'll help you find the divine dragon's inner core as soon as possible." "Thank you, big brother." Xiaolong immediately became excited. He thanked Lin Feng in his childish voice with a hint of coquettishness. Xiaolong was very smart and had wisdom that he shouldn't have at his age. However, Xiaolong was still young after all. Therefore, Xiaolong would occasionally act coquettishly and say some irrelevant things. Lin Feng continued to walk deeper into the mountain range. In order not to attract immeasurable Taoist's attention, he kept a distance from him. However, Lin Feng had always locked onto immeasurable Taoist's position, so he wasn't afraid of being shaken off. Not long after, Lin Feng saw immeasurable Taoist. This guy had come to a valley deep in the mountain range. In the valley, there was a huge cave. The cave was like the bloody maw of a prehistoric beast. It emitted endless ferocious aura. Immeasurable Taoist had been pacing outside the cave, hesitating. This should be the place where the dragon veins gather. Logically speaking, this place should be water, but such a cave appeared. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. According to the contents of the feng shui theory, this place, indeed, it shouldn't be a cave. This place, to be precise, it should be a lake, because the land of the dragon veins was a place of fortune, and such a place must have water. The dragon wanted to soar into the sky from the water. Now that a cave appeared, it had the intention of trapping the dragon. Lin Feng's research on feng shui theory wasn't particularly profound. Therefore, there were some in-depth contents he also couldn't understand. And immeasurable Taoist had an extremely deep understanding of feng shui theory. He should be able to see more clearly. In the end, immeasurable Taoist entered the cave. The dragon veins gather. Although it's very dangerous here, any place where a treasure is buried is extremely dangerous. Lin Feng couldn't help but think. He rushed towards the cave, intending to enter the cave and explore it carefully. He wanted to see what was buried in the cave. That eastern dragon. Was it also buried here? However, just as Lin Feng was about to enter the cave, a figure dashed outside at high speed. Immeasurable heavenly venerate my ass. You scared me to death. You scared me to death. Immeasurable Taoist shouted as he ran. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. No one knew what shocking thing he saw inside to scare this damn Taoist. Behind immeasurable Taoist, there was a black fog rolling. In the black fog, there was a faint, terrifying aura. That aura made Lin Feng feel suffocated. What kind of creature is that? Lin Feng looked carefully at the black fog. Chapter 35-33. It was Lin Feng's first time seeing such a creature. The creature's body was shaped like an elk, but it had half a human body and arms. Moreover, there were horns on its head. It held a black war spear in its hand. The black war spear swept gently. It was as if the void was about to collapse. It was really shocking. It was shocking and moving. Wu Liang Taoist had extraordinary means, but he was still chased by the unknown creature. He couldn't block the attack of the unknown creature at all. The unknown creature was indeed incomparably powerful. Its cultivation was heaven-defying. The black war spear in its hand swept towards Wu Liang Taoist. Rays of light that contained destructive power swept towards Wu Liang Taoist. Wu Liang Taoist had the mysterious cauldron to protect him, but he was still swept away. With a cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The bones in his body also made cracking sounds. It was unknown how many bones were broken. Save me! Save me! Wu Liang Taoist looked at Lin Feng and shouted for help. Ha 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 ha! You deserve it, said Lin Feng laughing in the distance. He was taking joy in other people's misfortune. The worst friend. He was talking about Lin Feng. Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't really leave him in the lurch. He took out 3 stone swords and slashed at the terrifying creature that was chasing after immeasurable Taoist. Clang, clang, clang. The terrifying creature waved the war spear in its hand. It collided with Lin Feng's stone swords 3 times in a row. The 3 stone swords were sent flying by the terrifying creature. Taoist Wu Liang took advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to escape. Lin Feng kept the stone swords and quickly rushed into the distance with Wu Liang Taoist. The terrifying creature floated in the black fog and coldly looked at Lin Feng and Wu Liang Taoist. It didn't chase after Lin Feng and Wu Liang Taoist. Instead, it returned to the cave. The valley became calm again. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang stopped in the distance. Lin Feng scolded, "Damn Taoist, you clearly heard me calling you earlier, but you pretended not to hear me. Now, You still have the nerve to ask me for help? Do you have any shame? The boundless Taoist looked at Lin Feng in confusion as he said, Brother, this is the boundless Taoist. What did you say? When did you call me? I really didn't hear you. Based on our relationship, do you think I would pretend not to hear you if I heard you calling me? There was a saying that went, shameless people are invincible in the world. There was also a saying that a person who was shameless was invincible. Lin Feng felt that these two sentences were simply tailor-made for the immeasurable Taoist. Lin Feng could not be bothered to bicker with Taoist Wuliang. He asked, What is buried under this mountain? Taoist Wuliang knew that he couldn't hide this matter anymore. He might as well tell Taoist Wuliang. Moreover, Lin Feng had extraordinary means. If he joined forces with Lin Feng, their chances of successfully exploring the tomb would be much higher. Taoist Wuliang said, It's an ancient tomb. Rumor has it that the tomb is related to a powerful existence from the era of totems. It's that old? Lin Feng was shocked. Taoist Wuliang nodded and said, It is indeed very old. The era of totems should be traced back to the absolute beginning era, right? The era of totems was not a single era, but several consecutive eras. Tribes would search for totems that belonged to their tribe and worship them. The era of totems was when the creatures of the previous era were the most active. Is the creature buried here from the previous era? Lin Feng asked. Taoist Wuliang nodded and said, Based on the clues I obtained, it is indeed possible that it was a creature from the previous era that died during the era of totems. The creatures of the previous era were extremely evil after crossing over. They unscrupulously took all the opportunities of this era. They wanted to destroy the various races that had been born in this era. However, in the end, they did not succeed. First, it was because of the rise of the sentient life forms. Second, it was because of the powerful vitality that had erupted during the beginning of this era. Although many races had been killed by the beings of the previous epoch, even more races had survived. Moreover, as the strength of the sentient life forms continued to increase, many experts began to emerge from the various great powers of this era. The creatures of the previous era had also been met with stubborn resistance. There had been several great battles during the era of totems. The creatures of the previous era had suffered heavy losses. This was especially true after the tribes had begun to develop into cities. Saint Emperor Fushi's innate 8 trigrams had been popularized. Countless great formations had been formed from the innate 8 trigrams. The evolution of these great formations had dealt an even greater blow to the creatures of the previous era. Therefore, the creatures of the previous era had begun to decline towards the end of the era of totems. Their combat strength was far from being comparable to when the world had first been created. However, this was not to say that the creatures of the previous era had not been strong enough. In fact, it was the opposite. The creatures of the previous era had been incomparably terrifying, because there were very few creatures of the previous era. With such a small number, they had been able to contend against all the great powers of this era. In the few great eras after the absolute beginning era, they had still been able to suppress all the great powers of this era to the point where they could not raise their heads. If it had not been for the cities and the innate 8 trigrams, the outcome of the great battle would have been uncertain. Now, a powerful creature from the previous era was buried here. This made Lin Feng very curious. Perhaps he could obtain some inheritance from the previous era from this creature. Previously, Lin Feng had obtained the supreme technique 9 heavens and 10 earths, the unique and righteous. This divine ability was from the previous era. It was incomparably terrifying. Therefore, Lin Feng was very interested in the supreme technique from the previous era. That creature is very terrifying, but I have never seen or heard of it. Could it be a creature from the previous era? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Taoist Wu Liang shook his head and said, It's not a creature from the previous era. If I'm not mistaken, that creature should be the legendary odd beasts. Odd beasts? What kind of creature is that? Lin Feng was surprised. He had never heard of the odd beasts before. Legend has it that a strange beast was born at the beginning of the world. That strange beast had the body of a deer and the head of a human. Moreover, it had half a human torso, arms, dragon horns on its head, and a tail like a tiger's. That was the odd beasts. It was a kind of creature with an incomparably powerful bloodline. The first generation of the David's deer was a Sciention creature. Later on, this Sciention creature and other creatures gave birth to a descendant. Gradually, this bloodline spread out. However, as time went by, this bloodline was exterminated. From the middle to the late period of the absolute beginning era, it had never appeared again. Chapter 35-34. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. This damn Taoist seemed to know a lot about these ancient secrets. If that's the case, does that mean that David's deer isn't actually a living creature but a puppet? Lin Feng said. He felt that there was a high probability that the odd duck was a puppet. Of course, those were all Lin Feng's conjectures. He didn't know the exact truth. Lin Feng wasn't sure. Maybe it's a puppet, maybe it's a cursed creature, or maybe it's something else. Who knows if it's real or fake? Immeasurable Taoist said. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. He felt that this damned Taoist priest was implying something. What do you think of this place? Lin Feng asked. It's strange. The place where the 27 dragon veins converge. This kind of terrain is too rare. This kind of terrain should be the best place to be buried. However, this place isn't like that. Although there is a tomb here, it doesn't feel like a real tomb. Taoist Wuliang said. Lin Feng asked, could it be the Yin Yang tomb? The Yin Yang tomb was an extremely terrifying burial technique. The person who built the tomb was worried that the tomb would be visited by others, so he would build a Yin tomb and a Yang tomb. The Yang tomb was a tomb that was presented in front of everyone. This kind of tomb, it was often very dangerous. It was filled with endless killing intent, just a little carelessness. Then, he might suffer a calamity. In the past, Lin Feng had once followed Taoist Wu Liang to search for a heavenly devil tomb. At that time, they had met the Grave Tomb Commandant. The cultivators of the Grave Tomb Commandant's lineage were also searching for the heavenly devil tomb. The first thing they found was a Yang tomb that was fraught with danger. Although Lin Feng was not a tomb raider, he had come into contact with Taoist Wu Liang many times. He had a deep understanding of the feng shui and layout of tombs. Boundless Taoist replied, it shouldn't be the Yin Yang tomb. I just took a look and found that this tomb is much more complicated than the Yin Yang tomb. If I'm not mistaken, this tomb could very well be the tomb of the 3 talents. Oh, Sankai's tomb? Lin Feng frowned. This was the first time he had heard of such a tomb. The feng shui theory required a certain amount of attention to be paid to the arrangement of tombs, and it was extremely complicated. Taoist Wuliang said, 1 origin, 2 polarities, 3 essences, 4 symbols, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 luminaries, 8 trigrams, 9 palaces, 10 directions. Yuan. It can be called the origin of the Tao. It is invisible, colorless, and soundless. It cannot be measured by perceiving things. This is also what the cultivators call the origin of the Tao. In modern language, it is a kind of state before the formation of the universe, chaos, origin, etc. Yin and Yang, also known as heaven and earth. They were 2 relative concepts derived from the previous state. They could be understood as the gap between time and space, and between matter and matter, which was the formation of the universe. Of course, this involved the interaction and comparison between Yin and Yang. I won't give you a detailed explanation here, because you should have some understanding of the Tao of Yin and Yang. Sankai. Yin and Yang converged again, creating all things in the world with Yin and Yang. Among all things in the world, the human race was the center of heaven and earth, and together with heaven and earth, they were known as the 3 talents of heaven, earth, and man. Of course, this was only one of the theories, because the cultivator who created this theory was the ancestor of the human race, Sage Emperor Fuxi. Therefore, the center of the celestial emperor mentioned here might not necessarily be the human race. It could also be another race. For symbols, the 4 symbols, due to the different composition of Yin and Yang, are divided into Yang, Xiaoyang, Taiying, and Xiaoyin. They are also known as the 4 symbols, the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. There are 5 types of relationships, which were summarized by the predecessors as the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Of course, the 5 elements contain endless mysteries. They are the foundation of all things in the world. You should have some understanding of the specifics, so I won't say more here. 6 directions. First, we have to study the 6 characters. The most primitive 6 is the 3 talents of heaven, earth, and man. Heaven and man are divided into the combination of yin and yang, thus becoming 6. The most basic description is the 6 lines. The upper 2 lines are heaven, the middle is man, and the lower is earth. 7 luminaries, a general name for the sun, moon, and 5 stars. 7 is evil spirit, the main suppression. 7 in the middle of the heavenly stem is the suppression of the same sex. 8 trigrams. Add another line to the 4 symbols to form the 8 trigrams. Fusing yin and yang, the 4 symbols evolved into a supreme formation. 9 palaces, related to He-Tu and Luo Shu. They are Main Palace, Middle Lu Palace, South Lu Palace, Immortal Lu Palace, Yellow Bell Palace, Big Face Tone, Double Tone, Shang Tone, and Yu Tone. 9 palaces in Qi Min Dun Jia represented Earth. Earth was the foundation of Qi Min Dun Jia. It was unmoving. Qi Min Dun Jia was divided into heaven, earth, man, and spirit. Among the 4 plates, only the earth plate was unmoving. 10 directions: heaven, earth, east, west, south, north, life, death, past, and future were the 10 directions. After explaining to Lin Feng 1 yuan, 2 forms, 3 talents, 4 symbols, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 luminaries, 8 trigrams, 9 palaces, and 10 directions, Taoist Wu Liang continued, "What I said is the content recorded in the 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory. The most popular method used by people to build tombs is the method recorded in the way of Yin and Yang. Because it can form the cycle of Yin and Yang, the real tomb is the Yin tomb and the Yang tomb is the place of death. Of course, there are also people who build tombs as the 3 talents tombs. However, it is more difficult to build 3 talents tombs. The place we are in should be the first main tomb of 3 talents tombs. However, this tomb is also the most dangerous one." Lin Feng was very surprised. He had always been curious about Taoist Wu Liang's 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory, but Taoist Wu Liang's 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory was not leaked to outsiders. Now Taoist Wu Liang actually took the initiative to talk about the 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory, which made Lin Feng very surprised. However, the content of the 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory really made Lin Feng feel very shocked. The content was very profound, but it was extremely useful. Lin Feng had hoped that Taoist Wu Liang would talk more about the contents of the 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory. However, Taoist Wu Liang did not talk about the contents of the 9 volumes of Yin and Yang Feng Shui theory, which disappointed Lin Feng. Now, Lin Feng was wondering if he should find an opportunity to get more information from Taoist Wu Liang. Of course, this was a matter for the future. Right now, Lin Feng only wanted to find the tomb that buried the treasure as soon as possible. Lin Feng said, "According to what you said, this first tomb should be a fake tomb? Then which tomb should the real tomb be? The second and third tombs could be real tombs. We need to find those 2 tombs and then enter them to take a look," Taoist Wu Liang said. Next, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang confirmed the location of the second and third tombs. Their methods were extraordinary. If they could find the first tomb, they could naturally find the second and third tombs as well. Not long after, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang found the entrance to the second tomb. The entrance to this tomb was in a pool of water more than 10 miles away. The pool was very clear, but it was extremely deep. The terrain of a divine dragon spitting out a pearl. Could this be the real tomb? Lin Feng said. He and Taoist Wu Liang dove into the bottom of the pool. Not long after, dong 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 sounds came from the depths. Following that, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang rushed out of the pool with pale faces. Behind them, endless evil aura spread out. And amidst the churning evil aura, 9 terrifying creatures surrounded by endless evil aura chased after them. The 9 creatures all had a scorpion body and a dragon head. Their bodies were more than 10 meters long, and it was unknown what kind of creature they were. The 9 creatures were too powerful. When their auras fused together, they directly collapsed the void. Chapter 35:35. The 9 terrifying creatures charged over. Their attacks were extremely terrifying. Each of them held a war drum in their hands. Dong, 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 dong. They beat the war drums, and instantly, the 9 war drums erupted with a power that could destroy the world. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone was dumbstruck. The war drums shook the 9 heavens and shattered the world. Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist were sent flying. Their faces were as pale as paper. Barf. Both of them spat out blood. The attacks of the 9 terrifying creatures with the war drums were too terrifying. Even Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist found it difficult to resist. The 9 terrifying spirits wanted to kill Lin Feng and the Taoist priest of the immeasurable continent, these 2 uninvited guests. Therefore, their attacks were even more powerful. The speed of the war drums became faster and faster. The power was extremely strong. It was even more shocking. Damn it, this is too abnormal. Wu Liang Daoist screamed. Lin Feng grabbed Wu Liang Daoist. When the attack came, he used the heaven patching technique. He borrowed another chance from the heavens. Swish. Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist disappeared without a trace and dodged the terrifying attack. When they reappeared, they were already hundreds of meters away. Then, the 2 of them rushed into the distance like crazy. The 9 terrifying creatures seemed to be unable to leave the pool too far. Therefore, when Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist rushed into the distance, the 2 terrifying creatures stopped. Their eyes were extremely cold as they stared coldly at Lin Feng and Wu Liang Daoist. Their eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Are these creatures from the other domain? Wu Liang Daoist said with an ugly expression. Lin Feng nodded and said, they look like creatures from the other domain. Their auras are very similar, but I feel that something is wrong. Wu Liang Daoist bared his teeth. He looked at the war drums in the hands of the 9 terrifying creatures and said, this is the 9 heavens war drum, a legendary treasure. It's even older than your sky drum. No wonder it's so powerful. Wu Liang Daoist began to pace back and forth. That was because the 9 heavens war drum was too extraordinary, and it was incomparably precious. If one could obtain the 9 heavens war drum, it would be a great help to anyone. Naturally, Daoist Wu Liang wanted to get his hands on the 9 heavens war drum as well. But those 9 living beings were way too scary. They held the 9 heavens war drum in their hands. No one could contend against them. Lin Feng said, let's go and find the 3rd tomb. Trying to snatch the 9 heavens war drum from the hands of the 9 supremes is too unrealistic. Hearing this, Daoist Wu Liang nodded. Although the immeasurable Daoist was very unwilling. However, he was unable to contend against the 9 terrifying beings, let alone snatch the 9 heavens war drum from their hands. Lin Feng and Daoist Wu Liang left. They began to search for the location of the 3rd tomb. However, he still couldn't find it. The real tomb is the hardest to find. Daoist Wu Liang frowned. Lin Feng nodded. Fake tombs were relatively easy to find because they were filled with danger. Just a little carelessness. They would die, and their Tao would vanish. Lin Feng didn't enter the first fake tomb, so he didn't know what was going on inside. However, Lin Feng had entered the second fake tomb. He and Daoist Wu Liang had almost died inside. If not for their extraordinary methods, they wouldn't have been able to escape from the second fake tomb. Night fell. The Chaos God's star domain in the darkness was extremely terrifying. The same was true for the planet that Lin Feng and Daoist Wu Liang had descended on. Eerie and terrifying. At night, some terrifying sounds could be heard. Those sounds made one's hair stand on end. Lin Feng and Daoist Wu Liang started a bonfire. The 2 of them killed a beast. Then, they cut open the beast's stomach. They set it up on the bonfire and started to roast meat. The tempting aroma of roasted meat filled the air, greatly increasing one's appetite. Lin Feng and Daoist Wu Liang drank wine and ate meat. I keep feeling that something is wrong recently, Lin Feng said. He had always felt as if there was a shadow shrouding his heart. It was a very strange feeling. Since Lin Feng had come out of the Demon Fall Star region, he had been feeling uncomfortable, but he didn't know why he felt that way. Oh, what's wrong? Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but ask. At their level of cultivation, some premonitions were often very accurate. Moreover, Taoist Wu Liang knew Lin Feng very well and knew how extraordinary Lin Feng's methods were. Lin Feng had a premonition of some dangers. It was even more accurate. Lin Feng said, "I keep feeling as if something is watching me in the dark, making me feel uneasy. However, when I carefully searched, I didn't find anything." This, Taoist Wu Liang frowned. The boundless Taoist priest frowned. What Lin Feng had just said was too shocking. If he was really targeted by some unknown and terrifying creature, it would be an extremely terrifying thing. He had to be on guard. "Do you still feel that way?" Taoist Wu Liang asked. "Yes. However, after meeting you, this feeling has lessened slightly," Lin Feng said. Taoist Wu Liang said, "There are always some things in this world that can't be explained. You've been doing archaeological work all year round, so you should know about my experience, right? Have you encountered a similar situation before?" Lin Feng asked. Taoist Wu Liang nodded. He didn't say anything. Instead, he wrote a few words on Lin Feng's palm. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown when he understood what those words meant. "What should we do now?" Lin Feng asked. Taoist Wu Liang said, "I still have a treasure here. Perhaps we can give it a try." In the next 2 days, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang continued to search for the third ancient tomb. Their methods were astonishing. Although the third ancient tomb was hidden very deeply, in the end, it was still found by Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. The third ancient tomb was located in a surging river. There was an abyss at the bottom of the river. That abyss was extremely huge. The entrance to the ancient tomb was in that abyss. Waves of gloomy and cold aura spread out. In that abyss, there was a group of abyss river demons guarding the entrance to the ancient tomb. The abyss river demons had the body of a crocodile and the head of a tautai. They were extremely ferocious. There were more than 100 abyss river demons, and they surrounded Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang together. Taoist Wu Liang waved his hand and scattered beans to form soldiers. A dense group of golden-armored soldiers rushed out and fought with the group of abyss river demons. This damned Taoist methods were unexpectedly powerful. Every time Lin Feng felt that he understood Taoist Wu Liang quite well, this damned Taoist Wu Liang would display some powerful methods that Lin Feng had never seen before. It was the same this time. Chapter 35-36. Swish, swish. While Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were traveling through the tunnel, 2 terrifying beams of light shot toward them. The power of the 2 beams of light was incomparably powerful. They directly tore through the void and slashed over, causing people's expressions to change. "Careful," Lin Feng cried out. He could sense the aura of death from the 2 beams of light. He had no idea what had unleashed them. Lin Feng hurriedly took out his ruler's armor. The ruler's armor quickly appeared and wrapped around Lin Feng. At this moment, a beam of light slammed into Lin Feng's body. Then, Lin Feng was sent flying. Wah! Lin Feng couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face was as pale as paper. A moment before, Lin Feng had been severely injured by that terrifying attack. Fortunately, the ruler's armor was strong enough to block that fatal attack. If it weren't for the ruler's armor, he might have been killed by that beam of light. As for Taoist Wu Liang, he took out another defensive treasure. It was a kasaya. The kasaya was embedded with countless gemstones. It was beautiful. The kasaya's defensive power was shocking. It had blocked that terrifying beam of light. Of course, Taoist Wu Liang was sent flying as well. He spat out mouthfuls of blood in midair. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. At the very least, several of his bones had been broken. Fortunately, after the 2 beams of light disappeared, no other attacks came. Lin Feng circulated his undying bloodline to heal his injuries. Didn't they say that the real tomb was relatively safe? That attack was too sudden. I couldn't tell which part of the real tomb was safe. Taoist Wu Liang swallowed a healing pill before smiling bitterly and saying, "It was indeed extremely dangerous. Fortunately, we managed to neutralize the killing intent earlier. Let's be careful from now on. I wonder if there are any other dangers?" Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang became even more careful. However, they didn't encounter any other dangers during the rest of their journey. The two of them couldn't help but sigh in relief. Not long after, Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang arrived at a huge cave. A sinister and terrifying aura was emitted from the cave abode. A huge skeleton appeared in front of Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang. As for the skeleton, it was coiled together and was hundreds of meters long. It was the skeleton of an Eastern dragon. Don't tell me that the being that transcended epochs that was buried in the past is this Eastern divine dragon? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. No, it shouldn't be. The clues I've obtained tell me that the being buried in the past is not the Eastern dragon god. Taoist Wuliang said. Lin Feng quickly flew towards the Eastern godly dragon. The Eastern godly dragon's core was probably in its body. Lin Feng needed the godly dragon's inner core to hatch the dragon egg. Found it. When Lin Feng arrived beside the Eastern dragon skeleton, he saw the fist-sized dragon's core. The fist-sized dragon's core was emitting a shocking fluctuation. Lin Feng reached out and grabbed the fist-sized dragon's core. But at this moment, the fist-sized divine dragon's inner core vibrated with a strange force. That power instantly spread out and enveloped the entire cave. Then, Lin Feng felt the scene before him change. A desolate and immortal aura swept over him. He was still in the cave. In the deeper part of the cave, a huge battle had broken out. A man in a purple robe was engaged in a fierce battle with a terrifying being. The terrifying creature was silver-white in color. It had 3 heads and a thick crocodile tail. Its body was human-like, but not human-like. This was a creature that Lin Feng had never seen before. He wondered if it was the creature that transcended eras. There were 9 stone nails nailed to the body of the terrifying creature. He was originally nailed in a sarcophagus, but this terrifying creature was incomparably powerful and actually broke out of the sarcophagus. No one can kill me. Back then, when the 9 of you fought, I exhausted 8 of you to death. You were the only one who managed to survive until now. Now that I've escaped, I'll kill you and send you to hell to meet the other 8 sages. The terrifying creature's voice was cold and his eyes shone with a sinister light. Lin Feng had a rough idea of what had happened from what he had said. Back then, there were 8 other experts who fought with the Eastern dragon god. In order to suppress the creature that transcended eras, the other 8 died in the battle. In the end, the creature that transcended eras was suppressed. The only survivor, the Eastern dragon god, was in an extremely bad situation. You're no longer who you used to be, the purple-robed cultivator said. He was the transformation of the Eastern dragon god. Now, he was fighting the terrifying creature with all his might. However, he was no match for the terrifying creature. Poof, poof, poof. The terrifying creature left bloody holes on the purple-robed cultivator's body. Blood immediately flowed out. It's really hard to understand what you so-called totems are thinking. Is it worth sacrificing yourself for a bunch of ants? That terrifying being said with a sneer. The purple-robed cultivator that the Eastern dragon god transformed into was a totem that countless tribes believed in. Fight for my people who believe in me. The purple-robed cultivator that the Eastern dragon god transformed into said coldly. Fool. Ridiculous. Ignorant. The terrifying creature revealed a mocking expression. His attacks were getting stronger. Poof, poof, poof. Once again, he left 3 bloody holes on the purple-robed cultivator that the Eastern dragon god transformed into. You used stone nails to nail my body. Today, I'll let you have a taste of your body being penetrated. You won't die so easily. The blood in your body will drain away bit by bit, the terrifying creature said in a cold voice. His eyes emitted a sinister light. In his opinion, the purple-robed cultivator that the Eastern dragon god transformed into would definitely die today. There was no way he could turn the situation around. Divine Dragon 9 transformations. The purple-robed cultivator that the Eastern dragon god transformed into could not help but let out a low growl. Then, he leaped up. His body transformed into the body of the Eastern dragon god. His body began to burn fiercely. The Eastern dragon god was burning his life force. He planned to fight to the death. It's useless. An ant will always be an ant. No matter what means the ant uses to resist, The only outcome is death. The terrifying creature said coldly. He slammed his palm toward the Eastern dragon god that was burning his life force and transforming into a dragon body. Bang! The two sides collided. The earth shook. The Eastern dragon god was sent flying. The powerful force slammed into his body. The Eastern dragon god's body exploded. Blood was dripping. It was extremely miserable. Chapter 35-37. The Eastern dragon god was severely injured and looked like he could not hold on any longer. In the end, death seemed to be his only fate. However, at this moment, a terrifying scene unfolded. My physical body is crumbling. Strike of the heavens. The Eastern dragon god roared, and his body started to crumble. That body of flesh and blood. It exploded instantly. The Eastern dragon god's body was only left with a skeleton. He destroyed his own body of flesh and blood just to unleash a peerless attack. This attack was called Strike of the Heavens. Originally, with the Eastern dragon god's cultivation, he could not unleash such a terrifying attack. However, in order to unleash this superpower, the Eastern dragon god did not hesitate to sacrifice his life. After his physical body was destroyed, the Eastern dragon god unleashed a powerful attack. A dazzling beam of light slashed towards the terrifying creature. That attack combined all of the Eastern dragon god's spirit, will, magic power, and so on. That terrifying attack was raised to its peak and was so powerful that it was shocking. After the terrifying creature felt the power of this attack, his expression changed. He quickly dodged. He wanted to avoid this terrifying attack, but realized that this attack had completely locked onto his body. Hence, he could not avoid it at all. Hence, he had no choice but to face the Eastern dragon god's final attack head-on. Break! The terrifying creature let out a low roar. He condensed the 100,000 worlds and suppressed the Eastern dragon god's final attack. However, the 100,000 worlds, they were all torn apart. Then, suddenly, a tearing sound could be heard. The Eastern dragon god's final attack displayed an astonishing combat power. It directly pierced through the body of the terrifying creature. Why did it turn out like this? That terrifying existence roared unwillingly. His dantian had been split open, and he had suffered an injury so severe that it could not be healed. All these years, in order to kill you, I have been cultivating this superpower. Today, I have finally unleashed it. The Eastern dragon god's voice echoed in the cave. Then, boom, a loud, muffled sound rang out. The Eastern dragon god's huge skeleton fell to the ground. The Eastern dragon god had completely lost all his vitality. Meanwhile, the terrifying existence struggled and rushed deeper into the cave. I want to bury myself so that I can reincarnate. The terrifying creature's voice could be heard from the dark cave. Then, all the images disappeared. Lin Feng once again. He returned to the real world. Was that what happened in the past? Lin Feng could not help but take a deep breath. Did the Eastern dragon god succeed in killing the divine spirit that had transcended eras with a desperate strike? All of this was still unknown. Lin Feng and the boundless Taoist priest had to wait until they entered the depths of the cave. Lin Feng grabbed the godly dragon's internal pellet and looked at it. Lin Feng sighed. Lin Feng admired the Eastern godly dragon. He muttered to himself, "Senior's death is truly a pity. Since Senior left behind the divine dragon's inner core, you must have wanted to leave it for a fated person, right? Since this junior has obtained Senior's divine dragon inner core, this junior is the fated one. Don't worry, Senior, this junior will definitely make good use of this divine dragon inner core." Lin elixir IR. After Lin Feng finished speaking, he sent the divine dragon's inner core into his mountain river ring. Xiaolong seemed very excited. The little guy said, "This divine dragon inner core is really powerful. I feel like my blood is starting to burn. This divine dragon inner core is really useful to me. Thank you, Senior, for leaving this divine dragon inner core behind." Xiaolong was very smart. Xiaolong's IQ could even be described as precocious. After the little guy expressed his respect for the Eastern dragon god who had passed away, he began to refine the divine dragon's inner core. The divine dragon inner core is yours, but this divine dragon's sacred bone is mine. The immeasurable Taoist found a sacred bone that contained pure energy and terrifying fluctuations. Then, he wanted to take it for himself. After Lin Feng obtained the divine dragon's inner core, he no longer planned to compete with Taoist Wu Liang for other treasures. Good. Just take it, Lin Feng said. Taoist Wu Liang grinned. The two of them then looked into the depths. That passageway was extremely deep. It led to a deeper location. The terrifying creature that had been severely injured by the Eastern Dragon God had entered it. He wanted to reverse fate. He wanted to reincarnate. Did this terrifying creature manage to do it? Lin Feng thought. It was not easy for this terrifying creature to do this when it was so severely injured. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang carefully passed through the deep passageway. They came to the belly of another mountain. There was a stone coffin in the belly of the mountain. The stone coffin was not completely closed. That terrifying creature was nailed into the stone coffin by the 9 saints in the past. I wonder what's the situation now? Lin Feng said. Open it, and you'll know everything. Taoist Wu Liang said. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were both skilled and bold. They came to the front of the stone coffin and opened the lid. In a flash, Lin Feng's corpse appeared in their field of vision. Time passed. The corpse turned into bones. However, the 9 stone nails were still embedded in the bones. These are demon sealing nails, born from heaven and earth, the demon lord said. Lin Feng was shocked. He had thought that the 9 stone nails were made by the 9 saints through a special method. Only now did he know that he had underestimated the origin of the 9 stone nails. If the 9 demon sealing nails were born from heaven and earth, then they belonged to the category of stone tools. Perhaps the 9 demon sealing nails did not have much destructive power, but they could help to seal all living creatures. In the past, the reason why the existence that had transcended all living creatures was unable to withstand the Eastern Dragon God's desperate attack. It was because his body was sealed by the 9 demon sealing nails. Or else, with his combat strength, it would not be too difficult to kill the Eastern Dragon God. You must not be interested in these 9 stupid nails. I'll take them then, Taoist Wu Liang said with a grin. He reached out to grab the 9 stone nails. This guy was very knowledgeable. He probably knew the extraordinary origin of the 9 stone nails. Moreover, this guy thought that Lin Feng did not know the origin of the 9 stone nails. Therefore, he wanted to take them for himself. If the demon lord had not told Lin Feng the origin of the 9 stone nails, Lin Feng might have been fooled by Taoist Wu Liang. But now, Lin Feng obviously would not let Taoist Wu Liang have his way so easily. He grabbed Taoist Wu Liang's wrist. Taoist Wu Liang said, "What are you doing?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "I have a use for these 9 stone nails. We've known each other for a long time. If I want them, you won't refuse, right?" Chapter 35-38. Wu Liang, your whole family is a celestial venerable. You took the 9 stone spikes when I wasn't paying attention. How despicable. Take them out and we'll split them equally. Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but cry out gloomily. Lin Feng said, "Don't be so stingy. It's just 9 broken stone spikes. Don't hurt our relationship because of these broken things." Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but roll his eyes. He felt that he was a shameless person. However, after meeting Lin Feng, he knew what it meant to be shameless. In fact, Lin Feng felt like he had only understood the meaning of the phrase, "the most despicable person is invincible," after meeting the Taoist priest. These two fellows could become best friends. It wasn't without reason. Their temperaments and personalities were more or less similar. Taoist Wu Liang knew that it was unrealistic to ask for the item back after it was taken by Lin Feng. Therefore, Taoist Wu Liang didn't ask for it again. This guy began to rummage for other things. However, at this moment, the eyes of the skeleton left behind by the living being that had transcended an era opened. Those eyes were shining with a sinister and terrifying light. At this moment, a terrifying aura spread out from the skeleton's body. That aura made Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang feel suffocated. Crack, crack. Then, the skeleton grabbed Taoist Wu Liang's neck. It wanted to strangle Taoist Wuliang to death. Help! Taoist Wuliang screamed. Lin Feng was shocked. They were all dead. It was unbelievable that they could still be revived. Just as the skeleton wanted to strangle Taoist Wuliang to death, Lin Feng punched the skull of the skeleton. Bang! The tyrannical fist smashed into the skull of the skeleton. Crack! Crack! Then, the skull of the skeleton directly shattered. The hands that were grabbing Taoist Wuliang's neck no longer exerted force. Immeasurable Taoist quickly pried open the skeletal claw that was grabbing his neck. He said, "This guy was extremely unwilling before he died, and his resentment has not dissipated. Being entangled by this guy's resentment is definitely an extremely tragic thing. Later, I will do a spell to dispel the resentment." Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Then, he nodded and said, "Okay, I also want to see if the methods of Taoism are really so mysterious." Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang then looked at the storage rings on the skeleton's hand. This living being that had transcended epochs had worn 4 storage rings when he was alive. The two of them hurriedly took off the 4 storage rings. Then, he used his divine will to invade it. Then, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang's expressions turned ugly. This was because all 4 storage rings had been destroyed. Time was enough to destroy everything. As for the 4 storage rings, they were all destroyed by the power of time. However, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were not without any gains. They found more than 20 origin bones on the skeleton's body. This kind of origin bone was very similar to the sacred bone left behind by the Eastern Divine Dragon. It must have recorded some shocking things. Perhaps it was some memories, some inheritance, or these bones themselves contained extremely powerful magic power. After fusing with the body, it could increase a cultivator's combat strength. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang each took more than 10 origin bones. Then, Taoist Wu Liang began to take out some tools because he wanted to do a spell to dispel the resentment left behind by this living being that had transcended epochs. Of course, this was just what Taoist Wu Liang wanted to do on the surface. The actual purpose was to make the unknown existence that was following Lin Feng appear. Taoist Wu Liang held a peachwood sword in his hand. This was a green lightning peachwood sword. It was said that the peachwood sword was made of lightning wood and was specially used to exorcise evil. Taoist Wu Liang chanted an incantation while taking out all kinds of talismans. The peachwood sword touched those talismans. The talismans burned one after another. Then, a very special power surged out from the burning talismans. Then, it merged into the void. It is difficult to expiate evil after death. This poor Taoist has expiated billions of resentful spirits in the world. Today, I will expiate you. I hope you can reincarnate and become a human again. After Taoist Wu Liang circled around, he came to Lin Feng's side. The peachwood sword in his hand pointed at the skeleton's corpse 3 times in a row. 3 beams of light quickly flew toward the skeleton. Then, all 3 beams of light merged into the skeleton. Retreat! Taoist Wu Liang suddenly shouted. Lin Feng's mind understood. He quickly retreated with Taoist Wu Liang. They instantly retreated from the belly of the mountain. Then, Taoist Wu Liang flicked his finger. Buzz! An 8 trigrams light barrier directly sealed the entrance to the belly of the mountain. Hellfire! Then, Taoist Wu Liang shouted and chanted an incantation. Boom! The entire belly of the mountain actually burned fiercely. Hellfire ignited the belly of the mountain. Even the void was ignited. Screech! A sharp and ear-piercing cry suddenly rang out. A black shadow appeared in the hellfire. The black shadow wanted to rush out. This is, when Lin Feng saw the black shadow, he could not help but be shocked. Previously, he had felt that he was being targeted by something. Now, it seemed that it was true. Bang! Bang! The black shadow attacked the barrier that Taoist Wu Liang had condensed. It wanted to break the barrier that Taoist Wu Liang had condensed. It attacked continuously many times. However, it did not succeed. However, at this time, Lin Feng could clearly see the shadow of the black shadow. It was a terrifying creature with a human body and a python's head. It lingered in the darkness, emitting an endless evil aura. Isn't this the huge python that was worshipped in the temple in Demon Fall Starfield? Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. The existence worshipped in the temple in Demon Falls Starfield was actually the image of the huge python. However, on the murals, Lin Feng saw that the huge python had once transformed into a terrifying creature with a human body and a python's head. It was exactly the same as the creature in front of him. This thing most likely followed you out of Demon Falls Starfield. I just don't know what this thing is planning. It hasn't made a move yet. Perhaps it hasn't found a suitable time to make a move. Taoist Wu Liang said. He wanted to use the hellfire to burn this creature to death, but he failed in the end. The 8-trigram seal that Taoist Wu Liang had condensed was cracking under the attacks of the terrifying creature. No, this guy is too strong. We can't kill him at all. Hurry up and run. Taoist Wu Liang shouted. Go, 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 Lin Feng said. He did not dare to stay and quickly rushed out with Taoist Wu Liang. Before leaving, the two of them each took out hundreds of jade talismans. Boom, boom. The jade talismans exploded, causing the tomb to collapse. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang hoped to bury that terrifying creature. However, the terrifying creature still managed to rush out of the graveyard. However, at this time, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 35-39. Getting rid of the python totem. Lin Feng suddenly felt relaxed. The great python totem was currently in a very strange state. It didn't look like a complete cultivator. Instead, it was like a spirit body. The so-called spirit body referred to the body dominated by soul power, including the Een God and other terrifying existences. They could all be called spirit bodies. Therefore, Lin Feng did not know what kind of existence the python totem was now. But there was one thing that Lin Feng was very clear about. That was, the python totem was now targeting him. It definitely did not have any good intentions. So, he had to be on guard against the python totem. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would be schemed against by the python totem. At that time, he would not even know how he died. This guy should not be willing to give up. Now that we meet this guy, we have to avoid this guy as much as possible, unless our cultivation is better than his. Taoist Wu Liang took a deep breath and said, the python totem was indeed too terrifying. Its battle strength could be said to be heaven-defying. It made people feel a sense of horror. Therefore, Lin Feng should not confront the python totem head-on. Facing such a terrifying existence like the python totem, he had to deal with it carefully. Lin Feng said, isn't your peachwood sword specialized in killing evil spirits? I feel that the python totem is actually this kind of creature. Taoist Wu Liang said, although that's the case, the python totem is too powerful. Even if we have the supreme treasure in our hands that can restrain the python totem, when the python totem's strength surpasses us by too much, even if we have the supreme treasure that can restrain the python totem, it is almost impossible to defeat the python totem. This was indeed as Taoist Wu Liang had said. Lin Feng could also understand. He frowned slightly. He felt that the python totem was a great threat, which made him feel a little uneasy. He had to find some powerful methods to kill the python totem. The mountain forest was not a place to talk. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang did not stop. They quickly found a place to rest. It was now night. The mountain forest was full of danger. They had to be careful, or else. It was very likely that he would die a tragic death. The two of them found a rather secluded cave. Then, Lin Feng set up a concealment restriction to seal the cave. Taoist Wu Liang sat on the ground and panted heavily. Lin Feng asked, how was your harvest in the heavenly sage great world? You must have dug up quite a few tombs, right? At the mention of the heavenly sage great world, Taoist Wu Liang immediately perked up. That was the lair of the myriad races. This was a place filled with danger. But that place, it was also full of opportunities. Taoist Wu Liang said, indeed, I've dug up quite a number of tombs and obtained quite a few items. However, the Myriad Tribe's cemetery is heavily guarded. I've tried to enter multiple times but failed. If I can enter the Myriad Tribe's cemetery, I'll definitely be able to dig out a lot of treasures. Myriad Race's cemetery? What is this place? Lin Feng asked in surprise. Taoist Wu Liang said, The Myriad Tribes Cemetery is the place where the top experts of the Myriad Tribes are buried. It is said that the weakest cultivators buried in the Myriad Tribes Cemetery are Emperor Realm experts. There are even true immortal realm existences. Hiss! Lin Feng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This Myriad Tribes Cemetery was truly shocking. The living beings buried here were simply too powerful. One could only imagine how many shocking items were buried in the cemetery. There were even many Taoist inheritances. At the very least, the sacred bones of many experts would be left behind. When human emperors and above died, they would suffer a calamity after death. It was very likely that they would be summoned to the underworld and enslaved by some unknown terrifying existence. Therefore, when human experts died, they would often choose to disperse into a rainbow, unwilling to leave their remains behind. Of course, there were also some extremely powerful human cultivators. After they died, even the underworld didn't dare to touch their corpses. Perhaps these people's remains would be left behind. As for the cultivators of the other races, even if they died, they wouldn't have to worry about their remains being enslaved by the underworld. Therefore, the corpses of the other races' experts were usually better preserved. The Myriad Tribes Cemetery could indeed be considered a huge treasure trove. If they could excavate the tombs one by one, when the time came, they would definitely be able to obtain many extraordinary items. Lin Feng said, "Could it be that there's a supreme expert guarding the Myriad Tribes Cemetery?" Taoist Wuliang said, "That's right. There's an expert guarding it. It's hard to get close. However, after the matter in the Starry Sky world is over, perhaps we can head to the Myriad Tribes Cemetery together. If we work together, we'll definitely be able to enter the Myriad Tribes Cemetery." "All right. When the time comes, we'll work together and dig up all the tombs of the ancestors of the Myriad Tribes." Lin Feng instantly grinned. At that moment, waves of intense fluctuations came from Lin Feng's mountain river ring. The fluctuations were too shocking. Even through the mountain river ring, Taoist Wuliang was alarmed. Whoosh! There was a flash of light, and the dragon egg flew out of the mountain river ring. Rays of sacred light shot out from the dragon egg. Between heaven and earth, the sound of the great Tao could be heard. "This is a dragon egg?" Taoist Wuliang was shocked. Lin Feng nodded. "That's right. It's a dragon egg. I brought it out from a mysterious world that appeared in the demon race's sacred ground." "This dragon egg is too extraordinary," Taoist Wuliang said. He looked at Lin Feng with envy and jealousy. How he wished that he could obtain such a dragon egg. The dragon egg was indeed extraordinary. Endless runes surrounded it. Roar! Suddenly, a loud dragon roar resounded through heaven and earth. One by one, small dragons appeared and surrounded the dragon egg. They let out a dragon roar. There were too many of those small dragons. They were densely packed. No one knew how many there were. Perhaps there were 10,000 of them. Perhaps there were more. It was truly shocking to the extreme. It's really heaven-defying. What kind of dragon race is the small dragon in this dragon egg? Taoist Wuliang looked at the dragon egg in disbelief. He was very knowledgeable. He had seen all kinds of dragon eggs. He had even seen the divine dragon pill. However, it was far from being as extraordinary as the dragon egg in front of him, because the phenomenon of heaven and earth when the dragon egg hatched was too shocking. They simply couldn't believe what they were seeing. However, all of this was real. Lin Feng said, "I don't know which clan this little fellow belongs to either. When he comes into being, we'll know." At this moment, kacha 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 sounds were heard. Chapter 3540. It's finally going to hatch. Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up. Xiaolong was very heaven-defying. Lin Feng had been waiting for Xiaolong to hatch successfully and then see which clan it belonged to. However, the conditions for Xiaolong to hatch were extremely harsh. Lin Feng waited for a long time, but he did not see Xiaolong hatch successfully. However, after a long wait, now there were finally signs of hatching. This made Lin Feng very happy. Lin Feng had been waiting for this day for too long. Roar! The roar of 10,000 dragons shook the 9 heavens and 10 earth. It resounded in all directions. It shocked the world. Every little dragon was so lifelike. They surrounded the dragon egg. Then, they spat out dragon breath. The powerful dragon breath surged into the dragon egg. After absorbing the dragon breath of the 10,000 dragons, the little dragon in the dragon egg was extremely excited. It constantly let out a long roar. Pacha, pacha, pacha. The cracks on the dragon egg became denser and denser. Not long after, the cracks on the dragon egg covered the entire dragon egg. Outside, a loud rumbling sound could be heard. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were alarmed. Xiaolong rushed out. Then, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang also quickly rushed out. When they arrived outside, they were shocked. They saw endless lightning lingering in the void outside. The sea of lightning covered the sky. Dark clouds pressed down. There was a feeling of black clouds pressing down on the city. In the sea of lightning, thunder dragons and lightning snakes swam quickly. Those thunder dragons and lightning snakes, with a long roar, seemed to be able to collapse 100,000 starry skies. Thunder tribulation? Lin Feng looked at the sea of lightning in the sky in shock. Xiaolong was born. The lightning tribulation actually came down. That was too inconceivable. Damn, how did it attract the thunder tribulation? What's going on? Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but exclaim. He was also shocked by the situation in front of him. Usually, the thunder tribulation would only be attracted when a cultivator broke through. This was the first time Lin Feng heard of the birth of some young beasts. He was actually able to draw down the lightning tribulation. Unless, these young beasts were so powerful that even the heavenly Tao was shocked and aghast. Or else, there would be no lightning tribulation at all. Of course, for the time being, Lin Feng didn't know what the specific situation was. But he felt it. Now, the lightning tribulation should be related to Xiaolong's race. What kind of race's descendant was born to be able to cause the heavenly Tao to send down a lightning tribulation to kill him? Soon after, perhaps she would be able to find out. The dragon egg floated in the air. Anytime, anywhere. The dragon egg would crack completely, and then the baby dragon would be born. But there was one last step. Xiaolong tried many times, but to no avail. The little fellow cried out anxiously. But Lin Feng couldn't help much. Regardless of whether it was the hatching of the little dragon or the lightning tribulations that descended, the little dragon had to face them all by itself. If an outsider helped, it would only backfire. Not only would it not help Xiaolong, it would even harm Xiaolong. Boom! At this moment, the first lightning tribulation descended. Bolts of lightning as thick as mountains came crashing down. Every bolt of lightning seemed to be able to easily split open heaven and earth. The first lightning tribulation actually contained 99 bolts of tribulation light. It was truly a peerless terror. 99 bolts of tribulation light. All of them bombarded the dragon egg. Not good. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. Xiaolong hadn't been able to hatch yet, so Lin Feng was very worried about Xiaolong's safety. But something that Lin Feng didn't expect happened at this time. Facing the attack of the 99 bolts of tribulation light, Xiaolong directly swallowed the 99 bolts of tribulation light, and the 99 bolts of tribulation light actually turned into 99 lightning runes. The 99 lightning runes merged into the dragon egg. Crack, crack. Those lightning runes were actually destroying the structure of the dragon egg. This shocked Lin Feng. Xiaolong swallowed the tribulation light. He was borrowing the power of the lightning tribulation to help him break out of the dragon egg. This little fellow was really too heaven-defying. He hadn't been born yet. He actually knew how to borrow power to fight. Taoist Wu Liang couldn't help but cry out, "Monster! What a monster! It's really too heaven-defying. When this little fellow is born in the future, he will definitely achieve incredible achievements." Towards Taoist Wu Liang's exclamation, Lin Feng naturally believed it without a doubt. Xiaolong's future was completely limitless. It was simply unimaginable what kind of achievements this little fellow would achieve. The first lightning tribulation couldn't destroy Xiaolong. Then the second, third, and fourth lightning tribulation continued to bombard. Each lightning tribulation was terrifying, but Xiaolong's ability was really too extraordinary. Facing those lightning tribulation attacks, Xiaolong handled it with ease. After absorbing the power of 72 bolts of tribulation lightning, the dragon egg finally cracked completely. At this time, Lin Feng also saw Xiaolong's appearance clearly. It was a fleshy creature. It looked a little strange. Its round body was not like the slender body of the Eastern Dragon Clan, but it also didn't look like the Western Dragon Clan with a pair of wings and a lizard-like body. This Xiaolong in front of him was the size of a fist. Its entire body was golden, and it had 2 horns. Its hind limbs were relatively thicker, and its forelimbs were relatively shorter. It looked a little like an earth dragon. Many dragons were unwilling to treat the earth dragons as part of the dragon clan, because those dragons felt that the bloodline of earth dragons was very lowly. The more powerful races of earth dragons included Tyrannosaurus rex, saber-toothed dragon, velociraptor, and other races. Lin Feng had seen Tyrannosaurus rex among the earth dragons. If Xiaolong was a branch of the earth dragons, Lin Feng would never believe it. Earth dragons couldn't cause such a terrifying scene, and earth dragons basically didn't grow dragon horns. Even if some earth dragons grew dragon horns, it was only 1 dragon horn. There had never been an earth dragon that could grow 2 dragon horns. If it grew 2 dragon horns, it would be a sky dragon. And the Western Dragon Clan basically didn't grow dragon horns. Dragon horns were generally the symbol of the Eastern Dragon Clan. This Xiaolong is very strange. It looks like an earth dragon, but it has 2 dragon horns. But if you look at it carefully, it's very different from an earth dragon. An earth dragon doesn't have such a noble aura. Moreover, the scales of an earth dragon are dimmer, but this Xiaolong scales are completely golden, and they are surrounded by holy light. What race is this strange Xiaolong? Taoist Wuliang couldn't help but feel puzzled. This fellow had done a lot of research on the Dragon Clan. In the past, he had even wanted to capture a sky dragon as a mount, but he hadn't succeeded. But despite his deep understanding of the Dragon Clan, Taoist Wuliang knew nothing about Xiaolong's origins. It shouldn't exist in this world. At that moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the endless lightning. Lin Feng and Taoist Wuliang were shocked. This existence was clearly targeting Xiaolong. Chapter 3541. When that voice faded away, an illusory shadow stepped out from the endless sea of lightning. That illusory shadow, like an immortal holy sage, powerful, ancient, terrifying. A pair of cold eyes swept over. It was as if the heavens were about to collapse. It was hard to imagine how terrifying this existence's cultivation was. This was not a real person, but just a mark that appeared. However, what puzzled Lin Feng was that he did not know who the owner of this mark was. Or was it a mark that appeared from the heavenly axiom? Die. This terrifying creature looked at Xiaolong with a cold voice. Then, he descended from the sky, bringing with him 100,000 lightning bolts. At that moment, it was as if he had transformed into an immortal holy spirit. A dazzling light shone between heaven and earth. The beam of light formed by that terrifying existence locked onto Xiaolong. Xiaolong could not avoid it. Lin Feng could not help but change his expression after feeling the powerful power contained in that terrifying beam of light. That existence was simply too powerful. The power he possessed made one's hair stand on end. It was a feeling of disbelief. It was hard to imagine how terrifying his combat strength had reached. Xiaolong had previously displayed extraordinary abilities. However, even so, Lin Feng could not help but worry about Xiaolong, because this existence was simply too terrifying, no matter how strong Xiaolong was. But he was still young. Whether he could withstand the attack of this terrifying existence was all unknown. Roar! Xiaolong sensed danger and let out a dragon roar. He had just hatched not long ago. The dragon roar that came out was also a childish voice. But even so, Xiaolong's dragon roar still shook heaven and earth. It resounded through the clouds. A large amount of holy light gushed out from Xiaolong's body. Then, Xiaolong opened his mouth. In his mouth, there was a divine dragon inner core. That divine dragon inner core was the divine dragon inner core left behind by the dead Eastern divine dragon. It was refined by Xiaolong. Xiaolong held the divine dragon inner core in his mouth and took the initiative to charge towards the terrifying beam of light formed by that mysterious existence. Bang! It was accompanied by an earth-shaking collision sound. The two sides collided. Xiaolong was sent flying. His chest was torn open, and dragon blood flowed out. On the other hand, the terrifying existence was beaten back to its original form, and its body became even more illusory. And the most shocking thing was, the illusory body of the terrifying existence began to crack. Xiaolong's attack was too powerful, and it did not match his age. Anyone who saw Xiaolong's battle prowess would never believe that Xiaolong was a creature that had just hatched. It was truly inconceivable. It was unbelievable. Immortal slaying, god slaying, devil slaying. Suddenly, that terrifying existence attacked again. He cast 3 divine abilities in succession. These 3 divine abilities seemed to be linked together. It was very mysterious. When the 3 divine abilities were fused together, they could form an incomparably powerful attack. So, the terrifying existence's speed was pushed to the limit as it charged towards Xiaolong. Wow! At this moment, the little dragon opened its mouth. It roared out a mysterious and unfathomable dragon sound. This was a special sound. It was a sound wave attack. It was many times stronger than the 8 notes of the heavenly dragon, which was also a sound wave attack. It was just that Xiaolong was still young. Therefore, when he roared out this kind of sound wave attack, it sounded like a baby's voice. But even so, this sound wave attack was still incomparably powerful. Bang! Xiaolong's sound wave attack collided with that terrifying existence's attack. Both sides were evenly matched. The destructive power flipped Xiaolong over. Another 4 to 5 wounds appeared on Xiaolong's body. Blood flowed out of each wound. Of course, the mysterious existence that wanted to destroy Xiaolong was not in a good condition either. His body had completely cracked open. It would shatter into pieces at any time. You should not exist in this world. You will be punished by the heavens. His voice was still cold, and it contained endless killing intent. Roar! Xiaolong stepped forward and let out a furious roar at the being. Xiaolong was indeed angry. He was just born. Who did he offend? He was struck by lightning for so long. He was even attacked by this terrifying existence and almost died in the hands of this terrifying existence. Xiaolong also had a temper. When Xiaolong's roar fell, a huge monster suddenly appeared behind Xiaolong. It was the shadow of a huge dragon. But the huge dragon coiled in the clouds and only stretched out a claw. Therefore, Lin Feng did not know what the huge dragon looked like. The huge dragon's claw directly slapped toward that terrifying creature. A bang was heard. The terrifying creature's body directly exploded. At this time, the sea of lightning that condensed in the sky gradually dissipated. Xiaolong's breath was relatively weak. Lin Feng hurriedly flew over and hugged Xiaolong in his arms. Xiaolong stretched out his head and rubbed Lin Feng's chest. Then he closed his eyes. He fell asleep. He needed to sleep to recover his injured body. This little guy is really heaven-defying. Wuliang Taoist looked at Xiaolong with a green light in his eyes. This guy was having a bad idea about Xiaolong. Lin Feng naturally would not let Wuliang Taoist have his way. He hurriedly sent Xiaolong back into the mountain river ring and let Xiaolong recover. Wuliang Taoist's eyes darted around. No one knew what he was thinking. Lin Feng said, "The commotion just now was too big. We can't stay here for long. Let's hurry and leave." Wuliang Taoist nodded and quickly left with Lin Feng. In the next few days, Lin Feng and Wuliang Taoist discovered traces of cultivator groups one after another. It seems that the restrictions in the outer regions of the Chaos God Starfield have disappeared. Cultivators are coming in one after another. Wuliang Taoist said. Lin Feng said, "They all want to find out the secrets of the coffin carriers and the ancient stone coffins." Yes, this is a shocking secret. If the ancient stone coffins really do contain the corpses of the first ancestor of the sovereign imperial clan, Hongmeng, Daoist Luya, and the others, not to mention the Starfield realm, even the Celestial realm, the Netherworld, the Chaos Xinhuang realm, and the Otherworld and the Wasteland would be alarmed. Wuliang Taoist said. Lin Feng and Wuliang Taoist left the star they were on because it was not the main star of the Chaos God Starfield. Roar. On this day, an earth-shaking roar resounded through the world. Soon, shocking news spread. Someone saw a dragon elephant pulling an ancient stone coffin through the Starfield realm and into the depths of the Chaos God Starfield. Chapter 3542. The Dragonesque Elephant Clan was mysterious and powerful. This clan had a deep relationship with Lin Feng. Lin Feng learned the Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill from the Dragonesque Elephant Sovereign. It was also because of the Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill Lin Feng completed his counterattack. This was how Lin Feng achieved his current achievements. Today, there was a Dragonesque elephant pulling a stone coffin across the starry sky. This news was really shocking. Lin Feng could not believe his ears. Lin Feng did not know if this Dragonesque elephant was related to the Dragonesque Elephant Sovereign. But the Dragonesque Elephant Clan had always been rare. Just like the Sovereign Emperor clan, each clan member had an extremely close relationship with each other. And Lin Feng had a destiny with the Dragonesque Elephant Clan through the Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill. Now Lin Feng's Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill had reached the 5th level. The first 5 levels were Dragonesque Elephant Shadow, Dragonesque Elephant Saint Power, Dragonesque Elephant Original Spirit, Dragonesque Elephant Fighting Spirit, Dragonesque Elephant Arm, Dragonesque Elephant Battle God. Lin Feng liked to use the Dragonesque Elephant Arm the most. According to his devouring martial soul, he could use the Dragonesque Elephant Arm several times its power. For example, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. The Dragonesque Elephant Battle God was a unique skill recorded in the 5th level of the Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill. Once the Dragonesque Elephant Battle God was activated, at that time, the Dragonesque Elephant Battle God would be activated. Lin Feng's battle strength would be greatly enhanced. The Dragonesque Elephant Battle God was very powerful. At the current stage, Lin Feng was still having a hard time activating it. Therefore, Lin Feng had never used this unique skill. With Lin Feng's battle strength, it was very difficult to activate the Dragonesque Elephant Battle God. One could imagine how powerful this unique skill was. Now that a Dragonesque elephant had appeared, Lin Feng did not know if he could get some opportunities with the Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill and the Dragonesque Elephant Clan. It would be great if he could get some opportunities. Soon, more news came out. The dragon elephant pulled the sarcophagus into a star shrouded in endless darkness. A large number of cultivators flew towards the star. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang also arrived at that place. With that star as the center, everything within a radius of several million miles was pitch black, even though cultivators had night vision. But in this place, his vision was still severely suppressed. This was because there seemed to be a special kind of law power in this place. And this was the power of the laws. It could suppress the various abilities of cultivators. It wasn't just his vision that was affected. Even his divine telekinesis perception, hearing, and so on were greatly suppressed. However, this dark starry sky world wasn't safe because this starry sky world was inhabited by terrifying dark shadow demons. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were attacked by the Umbra Evil Devils. These Umbra Evil Devils were extremely sinister and terrifying. Their bodies emitted terrifying fluctuations. Each of the dark shadow demons contained destructive power within their bodies. These Umbra Evil Devils were able to hide in the void. Their bodies were as black as ink. Darkness was the best cover for these Umbra Evil Devils. More than a dozen Umbra Evil Devils attacked Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang. Fortunately, Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were powerful enough to repel those Umbra Evil Devils. But they weren't able to kill those Umbra Evil Devils. Those Umbra Evil Devils had astonishing means. Even though they weren't a match for Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang, they were still able to retreat safely. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang were powerful, but they still couldn't kill a single Umbra Evil Devil. From this, it could be seen how terrifying those Umbra Evil Devils were. So, the other cultivators suffered from the Umbra Evil Devils' attacks and suffered heavy losses. Some cultivator groups were even directly wiped out. A large number of cultivators died in that dark starry sky world. In the end, they became the undead of the dark starry sky world. Of course, there were also many cultivators with powerful means. Like Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang, they repelled the Umbra Evil Devils' attacks. In the end, They arrived at a star in the dark starry sky world. No one knew what this star was called, but the surrounding starry sky world was pitch black. Therefore, someone gave this star a name. This star was called the Dark Star. Waves of destructive power surged out from inside the dark star. The dark star was the center of the dark starry sky, so it was definitely an extremely dangerous place. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang landed on top of the dark star. When they arrived, they found that the dark star wasn't as dark as it looked from the outside. The interior of the dark star was light brown. It wasn't pitch black. The visibility had also increased a lot. Cultivators continued to descend. For example, the cultivators of the myriad races that Lin Feng saw. The Sacred God Clan, Ancient God Clan, Tiamat Clan, Golden Saint Lion Clan, and other forces all descended. In addition, there were also some top forces of the Starry Sky world. There were also the cultivators from the Undying Realm, and this was only the forces that Lin Feng saw. There were also many forces that Lin Feng didn't see. The appearance of the cosmic coffin carriers and the fact that they were pulling the stone coffin across the Starry Sky world had too many implications, so it alarmed too many forces. Rumble. A loud sound shook the sky. Someone saw a second cosmic coffin carrier pulling a stone coffin over. It was a woman. She was very beautiful. Her clothes were as white as snow, and her temperament was otherworldly. She was like a fairy from the ninth heaven, who was untainted by the mortal world. She was so delicate. But now, she was pulling an ancient stone coffin and walking across the starry sky world. This was an extremely impactful scene. The extreme contrast caused countless people to be unable to shift their gazes away from her. Such a peerless beauty actually became a coffin carrier. Yi Futian murmured to himself. Many people couldn't help but take a deep breath and then exclaim. They seemed to feel pity for that peerless beauty. Such a woman should be a goddess in the hearts of countless people. But now, she had ended up in such a miserable state. It was really unbearable. To be able to become a cosmic coffin carrier. It is said that they are all powerful beyond our imagination. That woman must have been extremely powerful in the past. A cultivator said. No one refuted this point. That woman must have had extremely shocking battle strength. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been qualified to become a cosmic coffin carrier. But no matter how glorious the past was, now, it had long become a thing of the past. Everything in the past was destined to never return. Many people chased that woman into the depths of the dark star. In the deepest location, there was a mountain that was 100,000 meters tall. It was really too huge. It was like a pillar that supported the sky, connecting the sky and the earth. Chapter 35-43. Lin Feng had long heard of the rumor of a dragon elephant pulling a coffin, crossing the starry sky and arriving here. Now, he finally saw it. The dragon elephant's body wasn't particularly huge, but it stood between heaven and earth like an immortal god. Its might suppressed the heavens. Countless people felt as if they couldn't breathe after sensing the dragon elephant's aura. The dragon elephant's strength was unimaginable. It was definitely an unparalleled existence. The peerlessly beautiful woman was the second coffin carrier to arrive here. Why would these coffin carriers come here? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He felt that this sacred mountain might be hiding some shocking secret. Or else, the coffin carriers wouldn't have come here first. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound came from afar. The third coffin carrier arrived. The third coffin carrier arrived. It was a man who looked like a sword immortal. He carried an immortal sword on his back and pulled an ancient stone coffin. Then, he stopped in front of the sacred mountain. Not long after, the fourth coffin carrier arrived. When Lin Feng saw it, he couldn't help but be shocked. Because that coffin carrier turned out to be the one Lin Feng saw in front of the temple enshrining the python totem in the Demon Falls starfield. Lin Feng still remembered the mournful cry of this coffin carrier. He seemed to still have a trace of intelligence. That was why he was struggling. He wanted to regain his freedom, but in the end, he failed. Although he was very old, he could still feel the majestic life force in his body. He was definitely a terrifying existence. That's a coffin carrier of the human race. Who was he in the past? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Being able to become a coffin carrier meant that his identity was shocking. However, Lin Feng was puzzled because he didn't know the identity of this mysterious expert. The fifth coffin carrier arrived. It was a cultivator who looked very young. His arrival once again caused quite a stir. The sixth figure soon arrived as well. The sixth figure was an ox demon. He was about 10 meters tall and had bronze skin. His body was that of a human, but his head was that of an ox. This was an expert from the Bronze Bull Demon clan. This clan had left behind countless legends in the starry sky world in the past. It was a very powerful clan. It was said that there had been a few immortals. At its peak, no one dared to provoke it. But after countless years, this clan declined. In the end, they were no longer seen in the starry sky world. In the history of the New Age, too many powerful races had appeared before. They had once flourished for a period of time, looking down on the heavens. But in the end, it declined. There were too many such races. The seventh super void coffin carrier arrived. This was a cultivator transformed from a golden-winged great rock. Although it had taken human form, it still had a pair of huge golden wings. The pair of golden wings flapped gently. It was as if the starry sky world within 100,000 miles was about to collapse. A pure-blooded golden-winged rock. A cultivator exclaimed in shock. The history of the golden-winged great rocks was very ancient. This clan was incomparably powerful, but there were very few successors in this clan. Back then, the Great Rock King and Little Rock King of the Demon Clan in the Tianwu continent were the only two descendants left. They were close relatives with the Tian Rock clan. But the Tian Rock clan was not the Great Rock clan. They could not be compared to the Great Rock clan. A pure-blooded Great Rock is very rare. Moreover, it is said that a pure-blooded Great Rock has the potential to reach the immortal realm. What level was this Great Rock's cultivation in the past? Someone said, trying to guess the Great Rock's cultivation. This Great Rock's bloodline was too powerful, attracting the attention of too many people. Not long after, the eighth super void coffin carrier arrived. This super void coffin carrier was surrounded by an endless aura of death. People from the underworld. Someone's expression changed. The seventh super void coffin carrier came from the mysterious underworld, which was filled with endless secrets. The aura of death around him made people feel as if he was the god of death. Roar. A loud dragon roar could be heard. Then, a huge creature rushed over from afar. The ninth super void coffin carrier arrived. However, this time around, it was actually a 9-headed evil dragon. The Evil Dragon Clan was a clan born from the union of the Eastern Dragon Clan and the Western Dragon Clan. It was like the Evil Dragon Clan was a clan born from the union of the Eastern Dragon Clan and the Flood Dragon Clan. The bloodline of these dragons was not pure, but this did not mean that they were not strong enough. For example, the Evil Dragon Clan. Legend had it that there were several unimaginably terrifying existences in the Evil Dragon Clan. Their bloodline had mutated. Their combat strength had increased to an unimaginable level. Even pure-blooded divine dragons could not compete with them. Of course, no matter which clan it was, bloodline was not the most important thing. What level could a cultivator reach in the end? It mainly depended on the cultivator's willpower and comprehension. Bloodline was also very important, but it was not the most important thing. The 9-headed evil dragon pulled the 9th ancient stone coffin over. After that, no more super void coffin carriers arrived. There should only be these 9 super void coffin carriers. 9 Supremes. Why is it 9 Supremes? Lin Feng muttered to himself. The word 9 was very special. It often had an extremely unusual meaning. But when it came to the word 9, they all needed special attention. The 9 super void coffin carriers arrived with the 9 ancient stone coffin carriers. They stood in the void in front of the sacred mountain and looked at it. Everyone stood in the distance and watched, not knowing what would happen. Many people came for the super void coffin carriers and the ancient stone coffin carriers. But now, no one dared to act rashly. The super void coffin carriers were too powerful. Who dared to act rashly? It was no different from courting death. The huge, sacred mountain was shrouded in endless darkness. It was not very clear. When the 9 supervoid coffin carriers arrived with the 9 ancient stone coffin carriers, the black fog lingering around the sacred mountain was gradually dispersing. "Oh my God! Look at this!" Someone pointed at the ancient and huge sacred mountain and could not help but exclaim. Everyone looked at the ancient and huge sacred mountain. They were all shocked and moved. Many palaces appeared on the ancient and huge sacred mountain. Those palaces were faintly discernible. It was like a celestial palace. It was full of mystery. Everyone was shocked. How could there be so many palaces on the sacred mountain? Could it be the legendary Mountain of Gods? An old man said, "Mountain of Gods? What kind of place is that?" Chapter 35-44. The Kingdom of Myriad Immortals, the Mountain of Gods, the Ethereal Immortal Palace. These are all places that have appeared in history. They once represented a certain period of time and were the places where supreme cultivators gathered. The old man slowly explained. His words immediately attracted everyone's attention. Legend has it that the Mountain of Gods was created by a supreme expert during the era of conferred gods. Everyone should know that during each epoch, many stunning figures would appear. Thus, it's hard to say who is the strongest among those great existences. The factions established by those great existences were once incomparably glorious. The kingdom of myriad immortals was the same, and so was the Mountain of Gods. However, as time passed, those legendary places disappeared with the passage of time. Rumor has it that the Mountain of Gods was 100,000 meters tall and had a majestic aura. Many powerful existences from the era of conferred gods lived there. Those great existences opened up their own caves or built their own palaces on the Mountain of Gods, then cultivated there. It was a holy land that countless cultivators yearned for. And the Mountain of the Gods is so similar to this Mountain of the Gods. That's why I said that the mountain might very well be the Mountain of Gods. After hearing the old man's words, everyone was shocked. If what the old man said was true, then the origin of the Mountain of Gods was too great, right? It was simply too shocking. If one could enter the Mountain of Gods and obtain 1 or 2 fortunes, it would be heaven-defying enough. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the sacred mountain. Everyone's emotions were burning hot. They wanted so badly to climb the Mountain of Gods right now. The Mountain of Gods. The Mountain of Gods. Lin Feng muttered the name. The Mountain of Gods was definitely a shocking place, enough to drive countless cultivators crazy. When Lin Feng heard the old man's explanation, he couldn't help but be astonished. That kind of place was really attractive. How many fortunes would there be inside? Just thinking about it made him feel extremely excited. At this time, someone asked, if the Mountain of Gods is so powerful, how did it fall in the past? Many people looked at the old man again. Many cultivators were puzzled by this point. Logically speaking, such a powerful force like Mount Pantheon should have been passed down for generations. However, the truth was that this power had been destroyed many years ago. Many things happened in the past, and they can't be explained with just a few words. I don't know much about Mount Pantheon either, but just think about it. Even a powerful race like the Sovereign Clan has disappeared in the river of time. What else is impossible in this world? Many people nodded. Time was indeed the most terrifying thing. It was enough to bury everything. In the long river of history, how many powerful forces had been born? But in the end, didn't they still walk towards destruction? For example, the sorcerer tribe, which had once flourished in the past. It had long since disappeared. There were too many examples like this. There were simply too many to mention. The sacred mountain is becoming clearer and clearer. The power of the seal is also gradually disappearing. Perhaps it won't be long before we can ascend the sacred mountain. A cultivator said excitedly. He couldn't wait to ascend the divine mountain. However, now that the seal on the sacred mountain had yet to disappear, no one dared to recklessly ascend the mountain. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang walked towards a less crowded area. The two of them planned to perform some divination. They each found a place to perform their divination. When Taoist Wu Yang saw the divination technique Lin Feng used, he immediately cried out in shock. This is a divination technique derived from the innate 8 trigrams. And it's even more amazing than the divination technique this old man has mastered. Kid, when did you master the innate 8 trigrams? Back then, Lin Feng had wanted to exchange his divine ability for a portion of the innate 8 trigrams that Taoist Wuliang had obtained, but the damned Taoist had rejected him. After Lin Feng obtained the complete innate 8 trigrams, he had always wanted to show it off in front of Taoist Wuliang. But now, Lin Feng had finally found his chance. Lin Feng smiled and said, "By chance, I was blessed by the goddess of luck and obtained the complete innate 8 trigrams cultivation method." What? The complete innate 8 trigrams cultivation method? Taoist Wuliang couldn't help but exclaim as his eyes emitted a green light. He looked at Lin Feng with envy and jealousy. "How about this? I'll use a powerful divine ability to exchange with you. How about it?" Taoist Wuliang said with a grin. Lin Feng curled his lips and said, "Not interested." Taoist Wuliang really wanted to obtain the complete innate 8 trigrams cultivation method. Now that he was rejected by Lin Feng, it was as if 100 claws were scratching his heart. He really hoped that Lin Feng would change his mind now. "What conditions do you want? Just say it," Lin Feng said. "If you use a few of your secret scrolls of feng shui to exchange with me, I might consider it." Hearing this, Taoist Wuliang's expression immediately became uncertain. It seemed that this fellow did not want to use the 9 scrolls of feng shui to exchange with Lin Feng. However, if he missed this opportunity, Taoist Wuliang would be extremely unwilling. Therefore, Taoist Wuliang was currently struggling. After thinking for a while, Taoist Wuliang finally gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I'll take a loss in exchange with you." As his voice fell, Taoist Wuliang took out a jade tube and handed it to Lin Feng. Lin Feng said speechlessly, "Take a loss, your sister." The inheritance of the innate 8 trigrams was passed down by sage Emperor Fuxi. "What loss are you taking?" "I think I'm the one who's taking a loss." He took the jade tube from Taoist Wuliang and used his divine sense to explore it. He found that there were indeed 9 scrolls of feng shui recorded in it. Lin Feng's face immediately revealed a smile. He also took out a jade tube and handed it to Taoist Wuliang. The jade tube recorded the cultivation method of the innate 8 trigrams. The two sides made an exchange, which could be considered a win-win situation. Taoist Wuliang checked the jade tube that Lin Feng gave him and couldn't help but smile when he found that there was no problem. After putting away the jade tube, Taoist Wuliang asked, "What did you deduce just now?" "A place of great danger. However, there seems to be a lot of opportunities inside. You see, so many cultivators can't wait to enter. Once the restriction disappears and they enter, something unexpected will definitely happen. Only a few cultivators will be able to obtain the opportunity, and most of them will die inside." Lin Feng said, "That's right. We're not in a hurry. Once the restriction disappears, it won't be too late for us to enter after a large number of cultivators enter." Chapter 35-45. Immeasurable Taoist had always been this cautious. Perhaps this had something to do with Immeasurable Taoist's profession. This guy was a grave robber that everyone hated. Therefore, before doing anything, he would consider everything thoroughly. He was also more meticulous. Moreover, Immeasurable Taoist had an advantage before doing anything, which Lin Feng admired very much. This advantage was that Immeasurable Taoist would often leave a way out for himself before doing anything. When the matter was exposed, or when something unexpected happened and he couldn't deal with it, Immeasurable Taoist was able to leave in time. This was also a reflection of Immeasurable Taoist's cautious personality. Lin Feng nodded and agreed to Immeasurable Taoist's suggestion. The Divine Mountain was getting clearer and clearer. The restrictions of the Divine Mountain were also constantly dissipating. About 7 days later, the restrictions of the Divine Mountain had completely disappeared. A large number of cultivators rushed towards the Divine Mountain. Rumble, rumble. A loud sound shook heaven and earth. The 9 starry sky coffin carriers pulled the ancient stone coffin and walked towards the peak. When they reached an altitude of 90,000 meters, the movements of the 9 starry sky coffin carriers were greatly restricted, although they were trying their best to move forward. But in the end, they were suppressed too much. Every step he took seemed incomparably difficult. They want to reach the top of the mountain. What exactly is there at the top of the mountain? Lin Feng couldn't help but be extremely puzzled. Immeasurable Taoist said, "It must be very amazing. Let's try to see if there's a chance to reach the top of the mountain later." However, when the 9 starry sky coffin carriers reached a height of 9,000 meters, it was already so difficult to reach the top of the mountain, let alone others. "If we don't try, the result will always be unknown," Lin Feng said. Then, he quickly rushed towards the divine mountain with immeasurable Taoist. When they arrived at the range of the divine mountain, a terrifying pressure filled the air. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt that his mana was almost unable to circulate. Although the range of the divine mountain was not a forbidden space, however, there was an extremely terrifying pressure contained within. And that kind of pressure, the suppression on cultivators was extremely strong. Many cultivators couldn't even move an inch after entering the range of the divine mountain, let alone circulate their mana. Some of the weaker cultivators were sent flying by the shockwave. It was unknown how many of his bones had been broken, and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He was seriously injured. How shocking! Lin Feng took a deep breath. He and the immeasurable Taoist were also greatly suppressed, but fortunately, the two of them were very strong. As such, even though he was under great pressure, however, they were still able to move freely within the divine mountain. The two arrived at the foot of the mountain. There was a temple at the foot of the mountain, which attracted many people. Mountain God Temple. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang stood in front of the temple and looked at the 3 words written on the board. They couldn't help but read them aloud. This was an extremely ancient divine script. Ordinary people might not recognize them. However, Taoist Wu Liang was a grave robber who had plundered countless ancient tombs. He had a deep understanding of all kinds of ancient texts. Lin Feng, on the other hand, had learned this ancient divine language from the demon lord. The mountain god should be a low-level god, right? Therefore, the mountain god temple was built at the foot of the mountain. Lin Feng said. Taoist Wu Liang shook his head and said, "In our era, the mountain god is indeed a low-level god, but in the era of the conferred gods, the mountain god is not a low-level god. You have to know, in the era of the conferred gods, every title has a special meaning, and the era of the conferred gods is the most prosperous period of cultivation. There are many famous mountains and rivers, and those famous mountains and rivers will often give birth to their own mountain god, and the mountain god is the master of those famous mountains and rivers. And those famous mountains and rivers give birth to all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Naturally, the mountain god can take them and use them as he wants. Of course, the most important thing is that many cultivators who want to enter those famous mountains and rivers to cultivate need the permission of the mountain god. At this time, they will inevitably take out a lot of benefits and contribute them to the mountain god. Only then will the mountain god allow those cultivators to enter and cultivate. Therefore, the mountain god of the conferred god era is extremely powerful. As for why this mountain god temple was built at the foot of the mountain, I don't know. Maybe it's a special hobby of this mountain god. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked after hearing Taoist Wu Liang's words. Because of Taoist Wu Liang's words, it really gave Lin Feng a deeper understanding of the mountain god of the conferred god era. His previous understanding of the mountain god was too simple. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang entered the mountain god temple and found that it was very dilapidated. As for the statue of the mountain god, it had long been destroyed. Many cultivators were looking for treasures in the mountain god temple, but they found nothing. At this time, the fluctuations of a great battle came from above. Several groups of cultivators were fighting. Someone had obtained the mysterious source of the Tao in a temple. Therefore, it caused a big chaotic battle. After receiving the news, many cultivators rushed out of the mountain god temple and joined the fight. More and more cultivators left the mountain god temple and went to higher places, because there were many caves and temples waiting for people to explore. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Liang searched for a while and didn't find anything, so they planned to leave. But at this time, the dragon rabbit suddenly squeaked. This little thing's treasure hunting ability was second to none. The dragon rabbit could sense treasures that many people couldn't. These years, The dragon rabbit helped Lin Feng find a lot of treasures. However, there were very few treasures that could make the dragon rabbit so excited. Little guy, what did you find? Lin Feng transmitted his voice to the dragon rabbit. The dragon rabbit continued to squeak. Lin Feng could sense the change in the dragon rabbit's mood. He couldn't help but look at the shrine. That place originally worshipped the statue of the mountain god. But now that the statue was broken, many people went to check it, but they didn't find anything. But the place the dragon rabbit was talking about was the shrine. Lin Feng walked towards the shrine. The dragon rabbit transmitted its voice to Lin Feng. The treasure was not in the broken statue. It was in the shrine. The shrine was made of divine flame stone and was surrounded by divine light. Arriving in front of the shrine, Lin Feng punched at the shrine. Bang! That tyrannical attack landed on the shrine, but the shrine was not destroyed by Lin Feng. Lin Feng was shocked. The material of the shrine was really hard. He punched out 12 times in a row. Crack, crack. Only then did the shrine break. Chapter 35-46. The bronze box was very simple and unadorned. It was full of mystery. The runes on the bronze box seemed to contain an endless amount of divine power. Lin Feng was shocked. He really found something. The bronze box made the dragon rabbit so excited. What exactly was inside? Mine! Taoist Wu Yang yelled out as he pounced towards the bronze box. It was hard for this damned Taoist to change his nature. Whenever he saw a treasure, he would snatch it, regardless of whether the treasure was discovered by him or not. Lin Feng sent Taoist Wu Yang flying with a kick. Then, he arrived in front of the bronze box and picked it up. Many people were shocked. So many cultivators searched for the treasures in the mountain deity temple, but they found nothing. He was actually found by Lin Feng. In fact, there had been people who had the idea of breaking the altar before, but the altar was too hard. Because of this, the cultivators gave up. In the end, the mysterious treasure fell into Lin Feng's hands. Lin Feng didn't know what this treasure was. He needed to open it to find out. Little friend, you must open the box. At this moment, a cultivator said. This was an old man with a sage-like demeanor. What do you mean, old senior? Lin Feng asked. The old man said, according to the rules of the world of cultivators, when we encounter something special, as long as we don't open it, we can make a bid. No one knows what's inside. After the transaction is successful, if the value of the treasure inside exceeds the transaction price, the seller can't say anything. If the value of the item inside is far lower than the transaction price, the buyer has to bear the loss. I plan to use other treasures to exchange for this bronze box. Are you interested in it? Lin Feng said, I'm sorry, but I don't have that intention. The old man said unwillingly, what if I use my sacred art to exchange with you? How about the 3,000 great das? Lin Feng shook his head and said, if I need the 3,000 great das, I can find them myself. So, thank you for your kind intentions, senior. The old man shook his head and sighed when he saw Lin Feng's persistence. He didn't say anything else. Lin Feng opened the bronze box. This is... Lin Feng looked at the item in the bronze box in shock. There were actually 12 small flags inside the box. These small flags were of different colors. The 12 flags were made of different materials. However, they were about the same size. Each small flag had many mysterious runes drawn on it. Those runes seemed to possess boundless power. Array flags? If it's an array flag, then its value isn't that great. A cultivator said after seeing the small flags. Many people nodded. Array flags were related to the arrangement of large arrays. Many times, array flags could play an extraordinary role. However, after all, array flags could only be used when setting up large arrays. The limitations were too great. Therefore, its value naturally couldn't be compared to some top-tier true treasures. When the old man saw the small flags, he raised his eyebrows slightly, as if he was relieved of a burden. Perhaps he was rejoicing that he didn't make a deal with Lin Feng. I want these array flags. Name your price. Wu Yang Daoist said. His eyes flickered with a green luster as he looked at the chess pieces in Lin Feng's hands. He couldn't wait to pounce on the small flags in Lin Feng's hands and snatch them away. It wasn't a peerless true treasure. It couldn't make Wu Yang Taoist reveal such a greedy gaze. Lin Feng was very familiar with the Taoist priest, the infinite Taoist priest. Therefore, when Lin Feng saw the greedy gaze in Wu Yang Taoist's eyes, he felt that the origin of those small flags was definitely not simple. It was definitely not as simple as array flags. Lin Feng said, "Damn Taoist. Don't think of tricking me. Otherwise, I'll throw you into outer space." Wu Yang Taoist couldn't help but roll his eyes. He wanted to deceive Lin Feng. It was really not an easy task. Lin Feng tried to inject his magic power into the array flags. However, those array flags actually blocked Lin Feng's magic power from entering the array flags. If I'm not wrong, this should be the legendary 12 Heavenly Stems flags. At this moment, the Demon Lord's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. 12 Heavenly Stems flags? What's that? This was the first time Lin Feng had heard of this name. He couldn't help but ask curiously. The Demon Lord said, "The origin of the 12 Heavenly Stems flags is extremely great. It is said that during the first godhood, the 12 flags guarded the position of the 12 Heavenly Stems." What exactly does the 12 Heavenly Stems refer to? Lin Feng asked. The Demon Lord said, "In the earliest days, the 12 Heavenly Stems were used to divide time. The 12 Heavenly Stems are Zi, Chou Yin, Mao, Chun, Si, Wu, Wei, Shun, Yu, Su, and Hai. A day is divided into day and night. A heavenly stem represents 2 hours. Thus, the 12 heavenly stems divide a day into 24 hours of equal time. In the past, during the first godhood, a suitable time had to be found before the godhood could be held. In order to determine the flow of time, the powerhouse presiding over the godhood ordered people to create the 12 heavenly stems flags. Later on, during the godhood of each godhood, the 12 heavenly stems flags would appear. Because the 12 heavenly stems flags themselves were made of extraordinary materials, and because they had absorbed the luck and divine power born during the godhood of each godhood, the 12 heavenly stems flags transformed into extremely powerful magic treasures. After hearing the Demon Lord's explanation, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel extremely shocked. The godhood that the Demon Lord was talking about referred to the godhood ceremony during the godhood era. For example, Fire God, Water God, Sky Emperor, Earth Emperor, Human Emperor, and so on. They were all godhood titles that had been conferred during the godhood era. Then, they were passed down from generation to generation. Lin Feng hadn't thought that the 12 heavenly stems flags would be so powerful. He followed the Demon Lord's instructions and sacrificed blood to the 12 heavenly stems flags. After absorbing Lin Feng's blood, a powerful fluctuation suddenly spread out from the 12 heavenly stems flags. Then, the 12 heavenly stems flags soared into the sky and surrounded Lin Feng. Originally, each flag was only the size of a palm. However, after absorbing Lin Feng's blood, the flags began to rapidly grow in size. Soon, they became 4 to 5 meters long. Each flag began to sway in the air, making flapping sounds. Now, the 12 heavenly stems flags had already become a set of magic treasures. Its power was extremely shocking. This is the legendary 12 heavenly stems flags? Good stuff. Good stuff. At this time, a middle-aged cultivator walked in from outside the mountain god temple. This middle-aged man was extremely powerful, and he was very knowledgeable. He actually recognized the 12 heavenly stems flags. Chapter 3547. Sheng Ziheng, an expert from the Sacred God clan. This person is an expert at the Emperor sect level. After seeing the cultivator who attacked, someone immediately exclaimed. The identity of this cultivator was too extraordinary. He actually came from the Sacred God clan, the number 1 clan of the myriad races. Lin Feng had a deep grudge with the myriad races. Back when the myriad races invaded the 9 provinces, it was Lin Feng who contacted the various forces. He stopped the myriad races. He caused the myriad races to suffer heavy losses. If it wasn't for Lin Feng, the 9 provinces might have already fallen. Therefore, all the clans and clans hated Lin Feng to the core. Of course, this Sheng Ziheng might not know Lin Feng. After all, The Sacred God clan was very large. The Sacred God clan cultivators that descended on the 9 provinces were only a portion of them, and they were almost completely wiped out. There were probably not many Sacred God clan cultivators who had seen Lin Feng. This cultivator only wanted to snatch the 12 heavenly stems flags from Lin Feng's hands. Humph! Lin Feng's expression suddenly darkened, and a dense killing intent flashed in his eyes. He waved his right hand. The 12 heavenly stems flags immediately flew out. Then, the 12 heavenly stems flags swayed in the void. The 12 heavenly stems flags suddenly swept across the void. Instantly, wind, rain, thunder, lightning, water, fire, hail, and so on. All kinds of terrifying powers swept out. All of them charged toward Sheng Ziheng. Sheng Ziheng frowned slightly. The power of the 12 heavenly stems flags made him feel a sense of danger. Of course, Sheng Ziheng was powerful and was extremely confident in himself. He believed that he could resolve the attack of the 12 heavenly stems flags. He struck out 3 times in a row. Bang, bang, bang. 3 consecutive strikes. His attack collided with the attack of the 12 heavenly stems flags. An earth-shaking sound of collision rang out. After Shang Ziheng resolved the power of the 12 heavenly stems flags, he quickly retreated. As expected of the 12 heavenly stems flags, it has not even been activated, yet it is able to display such astonishing power. It is truly shocking. It is truly a waste for this treasure to fall into your hands. Brat, hand over the 12 heavenly flags, and I will spare your life today. Shang Ziheng placed his hands behind his back and looked at Lin Feng indifferently. He was very arrogant and did not put Lin Feng in his eyes at all. After all, Lin Feng was only a quasi-emperor. But Shang Ziheng was an emperor-level expert. He looked down on Lin Feng. It seemed to be an extremely normal thing. The surrounding cultivators immediately burst into an uproar. Because Shang Ziheng obviously wanted to bully Lin Feng because of his own strength. Snatched the treasure in Lin Feng's hands. This kind of thing often happened in the world of cultivators. This was a world where the strong were respected. If the weak were to obtain a treasure, they would not be able to protect it. They might even be killed because of the treasure. Now, everything Lin Feng had encountered proved that the world of cultivators was an eternal and unchanging principle. The weak had no dignity. The weak were destined to be bullied and humiliated. Therefore, in the eyes of the surrounding onlookers, it was a waste of words to live. There was only one way. That was to obediently hand over the 12 heavenly stems flags. Or else, it was a dead end. Although handing over the 12 heavenly stems flags would be extremely sullen and humiliated, it was better to live than to die, right? Said Lin Feng indifferently. You're just a tiny little insect and you dare act so arrogantly in front of me? Who gave you the courage to do that? Now, I will give you a chance to live. Kneel on the ground and repent to me. Then, break your arms and I will spare your worthless life. When Lin Feng said this, the entire mountain god temple fell silent. Everyone had an astonished expression on their faces. They could not believe what they were hearing. A quasi-emperor-level cultivator actually dared to say such words to an emperor-level expert. Was he courting death? Everyone only had one thought. That meant that this kid was crazy. If he was not crazy, he would definitely not say such words. However, when everyone looked at Lin Feng, they saw that Lin Feng had a calm expression. How did he look like he was crazy? Isn't this guy too arrogant? Arrogant, too arrogant. I have never seen such an arrogant person. Yeah, I have never seen such an arrogant person either. I don't know if this guy is really capable, or if he is just putting on an act. It doesn't matter if this guy is really capable. He has completely offended Saint Ziheng today. This Saint Ziheng is not a kind person. Just wait and see. This kid is dead for sure. Many cultivators began to discuss. In their eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. Many cultivators felt that Lin Feng was so arrogant because Lin Feng had obtained the 12 heavenly stems flags. They felt that Lin Feng must have thought that he could contend against an expert like Saint Ziheng with the 12 heavenly stems flags. However, the surrounding cultivators did not think so. In their eyes, Lin Feng had not even broken through to the great emperor realm. Even if he had obtained a supreme treasure like the 12 heavenly stems flags, he would not be able to rely on the 12 heavenly stems flags to deal with an expert like Saint Ziheng. When the time came, it would be a dead end. There was no other possibility. I've seen a lot of arrogant people, but it's the first time I've seen someone as arrogant as you. I didn't even use 10% of my power just now. If I'm serious, I'll crush you like an ant. Saint Ziheng was also extremely arrogant. He looked at Lin Feng coldly, and his words were full of disdain and ridicule for Lin Feng. He really did not take Lin Feng seriously. This was a kind of disdain that came from his bones. Shameless boasting. With your cultivation, you don't even have the qualifications to make me attack. Kneel down and let me grant you death. Lin Feng was even more arrogant than Saint Ziheng. Many people could not help but pat their heads. They felt that Lin Feng was too arrogant. Many people felt that Lin Feng would definitely die miserably today. I don't usually want to kill human cultivators. Do you know why? It's because the bloodline of human cultivators is too lowly. Killing lowly human cultivators is simply a great insult to me. But today, I will make an exception and kill you, a lowly human cultivator who doesn't know what's good for him. Saint Ziheng looked at Lin Feng indifferently. He walked towards Lin Feng step by step. The aura that surged out of his body was getting stronger and stronger. Boom! Saint Ziheng attacked. Across the void, he struck out with his palm. A huge energy hand suddenly condensed in the void. That huge energy hand descended from the sky. It enveloped Lin Feng. Chapter 35-48. Shang Ziheng's attack was very powerful. However, Lin Feng didn't take it seriously at all, because Lin Feng now had the ruler's armor. If he used the ruler's armor, not to mention a mere Shang Ziheng, even if it was an Emperor realm expert, Lin Feng was also not afraid of a battle. Of course, a supreme treasure like the ruler's armor was one of Lin Feng's trump cards. If he could use it, Lin Feng would try his best not to use the ruler's armor. Now, Lin Feng wanted to test the power of the 12 heavenly stems flags. Therefore, he planned to use the supreme treasure, the 12 heavenly stems flags. Under the operation of the Bing mantra, the 12 heavenly stems flags suddenly erupted with a terrifying power that could destroy the world. The Bing mantra was incomparably magical and could release the power of the 12 heavenly stems flags. At this moment, the power released by the 12 heavenly stems flags was many times stronger than before. Anyone who felt the terrifying fluctuations emitted by the 12 heavenly stems flags would be shocked. Lin Feng was also very surprised. The 12 heavenly stems flags was really powerful. The 12 heavenly stems flags swept out a powerful attack that could destroy the world and instantly blasted towards Shang Ziheng. Bang! Accompanied by the violent collision sound, Lin Feng's 12 heavenly stems flags and Shang Ziheng completed the second collision. And this time, Lin Feng's 12 heavenly stems flags directly broke Shang Ziheng's magic. The powerful attack from the 12 heavenly stems flags blasted Shang Ziheng's body and sent him flying. Wow! Shang Ziheng couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face became as pale as paper. Shang Ziheng is injured. Oh my God! This is too unbelievable. Is the power of the 12 heavenly stems flags so terrifying? Many cultivators exclaimed. Shang Ziheng was injured. This was something that no one had expected. Originally, many people thought that Lin Feng would definitely die. But in the end, it was completely different from what everyone had imagined. Instead, Shang Ziheng, who everyone thought highly of, was seriously injured. Everyone couldn't help but reveal an expression of disbelief. No matter how powerful the 12 heavenly stems banners were, they were still very powerful. However, Lin Feng's cultivation was only at the quasi-emperor realm after all. How could he possibly injure Shang Ziheng? That brat's combat strength is far beyond the quasi-emperor realm. Otherwise, Saint Ziheng would not have been injured. At this moment, a cultivator spoke up. This cultivator's words received the approval of many cultivators. Many people felt that Lin Feng was hiding his strength. Is this your strength? You're much weaker than I expected. I'm so disappointed. Lin Feng looked at Holy Sun Hung indifferently and walked towards him step by step. He was like an immortal god. powerful and intimidating. His body emitted a suffocating aura. Brat, don't be complacent too early. It's not certain who will emerge victorious. Shang Ziheng's eyes were filled with killing intent. He waved his hand, and a treasure flew out. It was actually a blood-red battle axe. This Dharma treasure of mine is called the Death God's Battle Axe. Today, I'll take your life with this treasure. Shang Ziheng's eyes flashed with killing intent. He rushed towards Lin Feng with the Death God's battle axe in hand. Behind him, a huge shadow of the Grim Reaper appeared and merged with the Saint Sun Hung. At this moment, Shang Ziheng seemed to have transformed into a death god that walked out of hell. Many people couldn't help but reveal a horrified expression when they looked at him. This was because Shang Ziheng was really too powerful at this moment. His combat strength, it was so terrifying that people couldn't help but turn pale with fright. Shang Ziheng and his Dharma treasure had combined very well. The terrifying attack shattered the void and swept towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. In the face of Shang Ziheng's terrifying attack, he was not afraid at all. Lin Feng waved his hand. The 12 heavenly stems flags all flew towards Saint Ziheng and surrounded him in the center. The 12 heavenly stems flags suddenly shook in the void. In an instant, Shang Ziheng's attack was broken by the 12 heavenly stems flags. At this moment, each of the 12 heavenly stems flags swept out a destructive light beam. The destructive light beam seemed to be able to shatter the sky. The 12 destructive light beams instantly shot towards Shang Ziheng. Shang Ziheng's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly took out a defensive Dharma treasure. The defensive Dharma treasure was an ancient bell. It floated above Shang Ziheng, and rays of golden light fell down, protecting Shang Ziheng's body. Shang Ziheng wanted to use this defensive Dharma treasure to block the attack of the 12 heavenly stems flags, but his wishful thinking was destined to fail. The attack of the 12 heavenly stems flags bombarded the defensive golden light of the ancient bell. Crack! Crack! The defensive golden light of the ancient bell was instantly broken by the attack of the 12 heavenly stems flags. Then, the attack of the 12 heavenly stems flags instantly pierced through Shang Ziheng's body. 12 bloody holes appeared on Shang Ziheng's body. How could this be? Shang Ziheng lowered his head and looked at the 12 bloody holes on his body. His face was as pale as paper. Shang Ziheng did not want to believe what he saw. However, the pain that surged through his body could not deceive him. Shang Ziheng did not want to die. However, death was devouring his will. I'm actually going to die in the hands of an ant. Is this sarcasm? Shang Ziheng revealed a mocking expression. This was a sarcastic remark to himself before his death. Shang Ziheng had been high and mighty before, and his words were filled with contempt and disdain for the human race. But now, he had fallen in the hands of Lin Feng. It was not only Shang Ziheng who could not accept it. Many people had yet to recover from the shock. Lin Feng looked at Shang Ziheng coldly. In the cultivation of a cultivator, bloodline is not the most important thing. The most important thing is one's character and will. However, in your life, until your death, you did not understand this principle. Moreover, that so-called noble bloodline of yours is not even worth mentioning in my eyes. In your next life, don't ever see me again. Otherwise, I don't mind killing you again. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng slammed his palm towards Shang Ziheng. Bang! The attack landed on Shang Ziheng's body. Shang Ziheng could not withstand Lin Feng's terrifying attack. His physical body exploded, leaving behind only a ball of origin energy. Lin Feng waved his hand and collected Shang Ziheng's origin energy, Dharma treasures, and storage ring. Shang Ziheng died just like that. Many people were deeply shocked by Lin Feng's combat strength. Although the 12 heavenly stems flags played a huge role in this battle, the key was that Lin Feng was strong enough to release the power of the 12 heavenly stems flags. Lin Feng was definitely an extremely terrifying expert. Otherwise, he would not have killed Shang Ziheng so easily. Who was this person? He was so young, but he was so terrifying. Chapter 3549. Let's go. Lin Feng looked at Taoist Wu Liang and said. He didn't stop and walked out. Taoist Wu Liang followed closely behind. After Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang left, the mountain god temple, which had been so quiet that one could hear a pin drop, suddenly became as lively as a market. For such a young human cultivator to possess such a terrifying cultivation base, just who is he? I heard that there are indeed a few powerful figures in the human forces in the starry sky world. I wonder which force he is from? Other than those ancient human forces, don't forget that cultivator from the 9 prefectures called Lin Feng. He's young, but he's also very powerful. That's right. That Lin Feng is very terrifying. I just don't know if that person was him. These cultivators discussed, but they couldn't confirm Lin Feng's identity. At this time, a cultivator said, Shang Ziheng is a member of the Sacred God clan, and he's an emperor-level expert. He has an extraordinary status in the Sacred God clan. Now that he's been killed, the Sacred God clan won't let this matter rest. Another cultivator said, the Sacred God clan suffered heavy losses in the Battle of the 9 Prefectures, and even their emperor-level ancestor fell. However, the Sacred God clan is still a force to be reckoned with. Although they lost many experts, they didn't suffer any serious injuries. Moreover, I heard that 2 experts from the Sacred God clan are about to break through to the Emperor realm. It seems that they have a high chance of breaking through to the Emperor realm. If they really break through, then the Sacred God clan will have another Emperor-level expert overseeing them. This force will still be a huge force in the starry sky world. There's going to be a good show to watch. The experts of the Sacred God clan will definitely tear that kid into pieces. Another cultivator said. Lin Feng didn't know what the cultivators in the Mountain God Temple were discussing. He wasn't interested in what they were discussing. Lin Feng was extremely satisfied with the power of the 12 heavenly stems flags. This combined magic treasure would definitely be able to unleash a huge effect at a critical moment. Moreover, the most terrifying thing about the 12 heavenly stems flags was its use of the power of time. The power of time was the most terrifying kind of power. Once the power of time could be released, it would be an extremely terrifying thing. The 12 heavenly stems flags could release the power of time to fight against enemies. However, it wasn't easy to release the power of time. At this stage, Lin Feng was still unable to release the power of time contained within the 12 heavenly stem flags. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang continued to walk upwards. They discovered that many cultivators were unable to go any further after reaching the 1,000-meter mark. Mount Pantheon was a little special. It was separated by a kilometer. The pressure it contained was completely different. At the foot of the mountain, Lin Feng could still barely circulate his magic power. However, when the distance was more than 1,000 meters, even if he tried his best, it was almost impossible for him to circulate his own mana. 100,000-meter-tall mountain. Right now, we've only reached 1,000 meters, and we're already close to being unable to circulate our own magic power. I really wonder how terrifying the pressure will be when we reach the peak. Will immortals be suppressed to the point where they can't use their magic power? Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. He felt that there might really be such a possibility. Taoist Wu Yang said, "This place is very strange and terrifying. Let's go wherever we can." Lin Feng nodded. He had the same thoughts as Taoist Wu Yang. Many times, don't force yourself to do something that you can't do. He had to know how to act within his means. The higher they went, the more temples, palaces, and caves there were. However, not everyone's temples, palaces, and cave residences could be entered without a hitch. Some of the restrictions on the temples, palaces, and caves had already dispersed. Everyone could enter and leave freely. However, most of the restrictions on the temples, palaces, and caves were still very powerful. If one wanted to enter, they would first have to break those restrictions. Battles could be seen erupting everywhere. This was because there were many good things in those temples, palaces, and caves, causing the various major powers to fight over them. Dragon Rabbit stood on Lin Feng's shoulder. The little guy kept looking around. Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang did not make a move. They were looking for a new target. Only a target that could cause Dragon Rabbit to move was worthy of Lin Feng and Taoist Wu Yang making a move. Taoist Wu Yang had seen Dragon Rabbit a long time ago. The first time this guy saw Dragon Rabbit, his eyes were already glowing with green light. Now, Dragon Rabbit had completed its evolution. Its ability to hunt for treasures had greatly increased. The immeasurable Taoist coveted the Dragon Rabbit even more. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of Lin Feng's cultivation, this damn Taoist would have already rushed up to snatch Dragon Rabbit from Lin Feng. Bastard, I'll chop you up. A resentful voice sounded, followed by a flying sword flying over from behind. That flying sword slashed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's reaction was extremely fast. He turned around and flicked his finger at the flying sword. Clang! Accompanied by a sonorous collision sound, the flying sword was bounced away by Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked over. Immediately, he saw a beautiful figure. The person who attacked was this female cultivator, Lin Feng's old acquaintance, Nayland Monley. There were more than 20 cultivators beside Nayland Monley, both men and women. They were all experts of the younger generation of the myriad races. Who was this kid? How could he make Monley so angry? The geniuses of the myriad races were puzzled. They didn't know Lin Feng. The group of people looked at each other. TSK, isn't this little Lily? What's wrong? Isn't it too hurtful for an old lover to shout and kill when we meet? Lin Feng couldn't help but tease. Kid, do you know what you're saying? Immediately, a blue-clothed young master looked at Lin Feng with a gloomy expression. That blue-clothed young master was most likely Nayland Monley's pursuer. A top-notch woman like Nayland Monley. There were too many pursuers around her. You can't speak carelessly. If you say the wrong thing, the consequences will be very serious. Another green-clothed cultivator said coldly, looking at Lin Feng with a cold gaze. Lin Feng said indifferently, I'm not speaking carelessly. Little Lily and I are really old lovers. If you don't believe me, you can ask Little Lily. Back then, Little Lily and I had a passionate relationship. Something wonderful happened. Now that I think about it, it's still unforgettable. Bastard! You're talking nonsense. Nayland Monley roared angrily, hurriedly interrupting Lin Feng. She was really worried that Lin Feng would mention the indescribable thing that happened that day with you, Simon, and the three of them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.